everybody, and welcome to Roundtable Live, your only source for us four people getting together to talk about video games at the same time. I'm Bear Taffy, joined by Mathis Games, Northern Lion, and Rock Lee Smile. Hi there.
What's up?
Hello.
This time at a totally different time. Totally different day.
Rescheduled once more for your enjoyment. This is exactly how you handle things when you're a professional podcast. We're back to Fridays, though. It's like our old stomping grounds, right? It's not like we ever left.
That's true.
Were we ever on Fridays?
Yeah, we always published on
when
Fridays.
we were pre-recorded before we were live.
Yeah, man.
I see.
That's the old school shit. Where are my OG Roundtable listeners at? OGRT.
What? I'm one of them.
Or flip that around. Roundtable OG, which is RTOG. So where are my RTOGs at? Raise up your RTOGs. That's like an EGOT, but better. It's like for podcast listeners. It's a good thing.
Dangerous.
We got a pretty good docket today as well. Not the best one, but it'll do. That's a good way to promote it, isn't it? That'll
It's
make people
mediocre.
excited.
Hang around for if you have something else to watch, I guess.
It's January.
There you go, yeah. No, we actually got some pretty good stuff to talk about today as well. Minecraft Education Edition was announced. We're going to have a nice, meaty conversation about that one.
Meaty.
We want to have an even meatier conversation, though, about what our game's worth. It's sort of spurred from The Witness being launched or announced as $40 and coming soon to all major platforms. And it's not going to be what you think it is, first of all. Let me preface it by saying we're not just going to circle jerk about how that's too high of a price. I don't think we even have that. Yeah, Nick's just clearly livid about it. Then we're going to be talking about what games we are most looking forward to in 2016, along with a couple of games that came out of early access this week, including Move or Die, Darkest Dungeon, and then a little quick snippet of the Westport Independent as well. And that, I believe, is it.
There you go.
But you know what I've been playing a lot of recently is Amplitude on the
Really?
PS4. Yeah.
I did not expect that, actually.
Really? That
I did.
I'm like a Guitar Hero Rock Band guy. You didn't know that?
But you didn't get Rock Band 4.
No, I didn't get Rock Band 4. I got Guitar Hero Live, and then, well, that was admittedly sent to me, though, so I guess technically I didn't even really invest that much in the new wave of music games. But Amplitude is awesome. And yeah, it's really cool. I didn't even really follow it that much, and I'm surprised I didn't either, because I actually did play like the original game, but it's rocking. It doesn't have as good of a soundtrack, I think, this time around. It's a little weaker in that sense, but there are some good names on there too. Like they got one of the tracks from Crypt of the Necrodancer on there actually, which is pretty fantastic. They got some Danny B on there, some C418, some Jim Guthrie, Darren Korb from the Transistor soundtrack actually, which is really good as well. Nice. But there's a recommendation for you right at the top of the show. Hey, get a game.
Did you get to the end of it, or like how far through did you get?
I'm playing on Expert. Yeah, pretty good.
I heard there's like crazy hard stuff towards the end.
There is some nasty stuff. Yeah, it gets pretty intense, but it's so visually pleasing, man. That's what I loved about the original Amplitude. It's just like, yeah, the aesthetics are awesome. It's just, it sinks you into it so well.
I think back in the day the aesthetics were awesome, but when I look at like a screenshot of Amplitude now, I'm like, oh, what in the world is that? Like, these like colored lines and nodes, and there's like music videos on like floating screens in the background flying by.
This looks like you wish that looked like back in the day. This is like the imaginary version that's good.
Yeah, no, it's it gets really intense. That's definitely true. Like it gets. I'm trying to find like a relevant gameplay video here, but I'm not really doing well. I didn't even think I was going to talk about this actually, but
you know what? I'm looking at screenshots for the new Amplitude, and this looks how the 2002 Amplitude looks in my head.
Okay.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, you're exactly right. when you look back at like screenshots from Amplitude 2003 or whatever it was, I'm like, oh my god, no. This is a screenshot from Amplitude 2016.
I'm gonna get you guys in on this for those of you watching right now live on twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast. If you're joining us here for the new time, there you go. Yeah, this is what we're looking at. No, It's got like a future in the eyes of people from 2004 look.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good synopsis, I'd say.
It's on PS4 only, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's only PS4.
Okay.
It justified my PS4 purchase pretty well for me, though. I've been kind of looking for that, too, outside of the whole listening to the menu music 9 hours out of the day.
That's fair.
Which has been nice, too.
When did you get a
PS4?
It was probably like a month ago, something like that. Yeah, that was a late adopter there. I have got all the major consoles now, though, which makes me feel like an elitist and better than all you guys, honestly.
You have an Ouya?
I don't have an Ouya. I didn't know that was in the major consoles territory still. I thought that might have got demoted. Let's talk about Minecraft Educational Edition, though. How about that?
Sure.
Just recently announced Minecraft Education Edition, a version of the popular open world game. You may have heard of it, a few million players or so. It's featuring some stuff that makes it a lot more approachable, I guess, for not the entertainment, but the educational setting. Includes things like enhanced maps with coordinates for students and teachers to find their way around the Minecraft world together. Student portfolio feature, enhanced multiplayer where a classroom of up to 40 students can work together toward a greater world in Minecraft. That's a little ambitious of an FAQ sentence, isn't it? It's really on the nose. World import and export, all kinds of fun stuff. You guys have a much more intelligent conversation to be had here, though, and I'm looking forward to that. So I want to pass the buck over here to Ryan and Nick.
Well, I think there's two layers to this discussion. The one is like, is it a cool idea? Like that's something that you don't need programming knowledge or educational knowledge to talk about. Like I think it's pretty sweet that there's like a learning environment that teachers and students can interact in. Like I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, we had like educational stuff in our computer lab. It was like gizmos and gadgets.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a engineering game where you could kind of build stuff, which was kind of cool. But this seems like if this had been around when I was a kid, I would have been super stoked to not just play a typing test game where the faster you type, like the more apples your worm eats. Yeah.
It was a really rough time back then. I mean, especially me being the oldest out of all of us, I had the most antiquated computers. And we had like this thing with a turtle where you would type in these little command line things and it would like draw a line. So that was like our programming lesson. And I was like 10 or 12. It was pretty shitty. But to be able to think of playing Minecraft, that would have been utopia for me.
Yeah.
If that was the time I grew up in. So these kids got it good.
Yeah, like Oregon Trail was another one that they used a lot of. I'm sure we've all played when we were growing up. I remember learning some basic, like, I think just the language basic back when I was in like fourth grade?
Really?
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's crazy to me.
I remember the computers. I remember trying to write my own like choose your own adventure stuff. We were terrible at it, but like it was cool. But there was no game that went along with it. I think in a time where education and like learning is a lot more understood now, and that certain kids need a different type of learning experience. I could have used that greatly when I was growing up.
Same.
To have a different way to absorb knowledge and absorb information that's more active is going to be a huge benefit, I think, in the classroom.
Definitely.
I think Minecraft can definitely do that.
There's specific tools as well that they've added to this for teachers. There's one that lets the students all take photographs and they can make like a little photo journal of what their project is. There's also a way that the teacher or the instructor can restrict objects from being destroyed, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's also tools
like
to
probably
be able
step
to...
one that they were looking for. Okay, how are we
Yeah.
going to prevent the kids from just fucking this up at the first chance they get?
Yeah.
They just need to let mods of any Minecraft server have that ability, because that would be great. I'd love to just like build a cool tower and be like, no, you can't blow this up.
Don't touch that, yeah.
And there's camera tools that allow the teacher to better monitor all the students so they don't like wander off into the woods or something. So it's pretty useful stuff. I think it'll benefit if they have a direction with it. And I mean, what exactly are we going to be teaching with Minecraft? I guess engineering specifically. You can do sort of hands-on projects where, I mean, in the article I read, they sort of specifically described a scenario where the kids try to recreate their school. So they have to designate.
Oh man, that's so cool.
They have to designate like specific materials for certain parts of the school and like try to scale out the dimensions of things and make it look convincing.
That's got to be something we all did at some point, right? When you got The Sims for the first time, what was the first house you tried to build? It was a recreation of your own, right?
I have tried
in
to
The
build my own
Sims,
house.
you just buy the pre-made house and then live your life, much like real life.
Oh, come on.
I did it in
What was
in
the
Marathon when I started doing map making in Doom and Marathon. I totally tried to build my house in
Oh,
that.
nice, yeah.
That's awesome.
You remember Rosebud, though, right?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
a
the
ticket
cheat
to
code.
freedom, yeah.
I thought that was obnoxious.
When I
Yeah, of course, the purity of The Sims, right?
When I was like 13 or 14, I was always like, man, I get why this would be horrible, but I really wish there was like a map of my school in like Halo, or a map of my school in like Rainbow Six. I was
We
always
were
like,
more
I know,
naive back then.
Yeah.
I know where to hide. People won't take it the wrong way if you had like a high school map in Counter-Strike.
Yeah, you just disguise it like it's a convenience store or something, like a really big one, like a Macy's.
with several classrooms. Desks with snacks on them and stuff like that. Dude, one of the articles that I've seen as like, they have like their own website with some sample lessons on it. Here's one you might not expect. A lesson about applying color to brutalist architecture.
That's
Brutalist
badass.
architecture is known for the prolific use of stone and specifically concrete in its building style. Learning options. Try to construct a brutalist building in Minecraft. Next, using screenshot tools and photo editing software, apply a variety of colors. Discuss with your peers what emotions does the building evoke with both the presence and absence of color.
Sure, yeah.
That's a high-level lesson to be teaching.
Engineering,
that's awesome.
design, Photoshop, UI design. Like, there's so many things involved in that.
I remember my studies on like the principles of nothingness back in second grade, man. That was really enlightening for me.
Do you think the kids hear that and they're like, that's bullshit, I'm not doing that?
I want the teacher to like destroy a kid's house that he spent all his time working on, and then be like, "How did that make you feel, Timmy?
Yeah.
How'd you like that when someone just shat all over your work?"
All I can think of when I hear brutalist,
Welcome to
though.
the real world, Timmy.
Yeah, exactly. Something like, motherfucker, this is how it's done. And then you just fucking slam down some Play-Doh on there and say, get to work.
Wow.
You got a different creative outlet to pursue today.
Did they say what that was geared toward? Was that elementary school or high school or?
I imagine that's
It's
probably
gotta
like
be elementary.
I was thinking like a middle school lesson.
Yeah?
Because I hadn't even heard the term brutalist architecture until
Oh, you
college.
meant
So
that.
that's amazing that they're getting into that kind of nitty gritty at that level.
Yeah, I think
I'm
it's kinda
jealous.
I mean, it's not the first time we've heard video games like being used as an education kind of device. I remember reading somewhere about history teachers actually assigning CK2 like as a way of
Yeah.
teaching them medieval
That's
kind
fun.
of like just and then one of the assignment that I read was that they had to try they had to take over a country and they had to try and replicate history to the best of their capabilities and report the difficulties they dealt with and that kind of thing, which I thought was a really cool idea.
Yeah, I like
just
that.
kind of like use CK2, a murder simulator essentially, as like a good representation of what it was like back then.
Well,
Sure.
I was playing as Charlemagne, and then I had a feast, and I fell in a blacksmith's lair. My dick got cut off, so I couldn't have
Oh
any
my
children
God.
anymore. And then I became my own sister, and my empire fractured.
Can you imagine in high school your first class is like, oh, I've got Minecraft for an hour, then I got to go to CK2, then I got Space
Oh,
Chem,
that's
and then
real.
lunch.
That's this.
like,
this
oh
is
my
the
God.
future, man.
And we got KSP thereafter.
Fuck, dude.
Wow.
You could. Video game high school has become. It transformed from a kickstarted television show into real life, and it's
That's
happening
true.
before our eyes. That is a valid. I can see every principle of that being executed well. Like you go from Minecraft in your engineering class right into Kerbal Space Program, where you're learning like very specific things about
Wouldn't
rocket
necessarily
science.
go that far, but sure.
Come
yeah.
on, no, I'm
Well-
thinking like college. Even you can go that far.
Oh,
very
come
least-
on.
yeah, man.
They could totally use KSP as a jumping off point to get into some really advanced
Physics.
physics stuff.
Yeah.
I don't
You don't-
think you would be using Kerbal Space Program to teach concepts in college.
They used Arma for training, man. You never know.
That's a. I don't
never
know. If I
know.
support.
Man,
They
Arma's
used
not a good-
America's
Arma's-
Army as a recruitment tool, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a good representation of the army, seeing that it runs only like 24 frames a second and barely.
Well, that's more like real life. It's more cinematic in real life.
That's true. Shit,
So-
got me.
if we strip away the idealism here, do we think that this kind of an idea that we're going with is an actual reality that could benefit anyone, or are we just circle jerking this idea?
I love the idea of using Minecraft.
definitely
especially.
Too. I really hope it's useful.
Yeah.
I don't think they can base an entire class around it, but as a
Oh.
tool that they use throughout the year, every so often, that'll be the best way to do it. But not as an entire class. I don't
Oh,
think.
like that's the thing is, I think that people who are ignorant of like what Minecraft is would be like, oh, it's just like an hour of playing video games. There is so much time wasting in school forever, but especially when you're like 10 years old, that anything is better than like. How many fucking word searches did you do in your school career? Each of us has probably done on the order of 500 to 1,000 word searches.
Yeah.
It teaches you literally nothing. You're just like, oh, there's a word. I
Pattern
rec-
recognition. That's about
Oh,
it.
it's pattern recognition in the same extent that, like, you know, a little baby can put a square into like a square hole.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like I'm just basically like worksheets that are irrelevant to the actual task at hand. Like there's when you're in school for 8 hours a day, that's like a lot of time wasting. So if they can get like an hour of Minecraft a week, even I think that could be
Yeah.
pretty productive, and it would definitely like even if it's not as the information density or learning density isn't as high as like lecturing, they're going to be so much more engaged that I think it has a good chance to be effective for sure.
And think about even just like the days you spend, video days. Like, all right, well, the teacher's got a hangover
movie
and we
days.
don't even really want to
Yeah.
get a sub, so we're going to pop in this old Bill Nye tape from 1998.
I had a high school teacher who, I shit you not, like 3 out of the 5 days a week we were in school was always movie day. That is just what we did when we did. It was history class, and it was just movies the whole time, all the time.
I mean,
it was
admittedly,
great
for
'cause
history
I got
class,
to
that's
sleep.
maybe not the worst way to learn.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh,
not.
it was sleep
Of all the
time.
classes to have movie days,
Sleep
3 out of 5 a week, or 3 out of 5
Well,
days. Of the
I don't
week.
know. I mean, this is getting a little inside baseball, I guess. I think it was cool in history class when you like watch something that made it more lively than just being like, "This is what happened at this date."
Right,
But then,
as a like an ending point of like
Yeah.
a particular lesson. It's great.
I had a great history teacher, but there were some of the things in our class where I was like, "Come on!" Like we watched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and I was like, "You just want to watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?"
Dude, listen,
great.
okay, so I went to a private school, Catholic school, my whole life. In high school, 10th grade, religion class, we watched Spaceballs. Tell me how that makes like
That's
how does that
really
relate to
odd.
religion?
I can
at
make a
all?
connection. Hold on.
It doesn't.
Darth Helmet is
I thought you just had an
Satan.
aneurysm.
That's amazing, though.
I remember back in like English class in elementary school, you'd get assigned these big like 20 pages of reading that you would sit, and then the whole class would try and read it quickly, and they'd give you 40 minutes or something. You'd finish it in 10 minutes if you have really good reading comprehension, and then you'd just sit there, and you'd have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So that was terrible.
Yeah.
We could certainly do better than that.
So that's what the argument here is that we're making now, that it's way better to just let a kid go play Minecraft than it would be just to have them sit there and waste
It's
their
not
time.
just Minecraft, it's guided Minecraft.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
they have
Structured Minecraft.
things to do, right.
Exactly.
It's not like, go play survival, kids. Tell me how well you did.
Call out your teammates if they're being griefers. Don't let any kids in this class ruin the experience.
Actually, in a way, I sort of feel bad for the teachers though, because I can guarantee that like almost every kid in the class would know more than the teacher knows about
Yes.
Minecraft. So they'd be like, "Okay, kids, here's how you place a block." They'd be like, "Shut
Oh,
up, Mrs.
no.
Jenkins."
Yeah,
You know
that's
what
a
we
really
talking
good
about?
point. Oh,
I already
man.
installed all the mods and hacked the server. Get out.
I got my own server with admin privileges, and I got this.
I got the school's entire log of IP addresses here if you'd like to take
no.
that from me.
Oh,
I built a
no.
redstone DDoSer.
That's one of the resources, actually. That's one of the beginner lessons they've got here for the Education Edition package. They really are going to have like tutorials and training seminars for teachers to learn how to play Minecraft so they don't look like idiots for the kids.
He's gonna be consulting.
Yeah, man. Oh, that's going to be awesome.
Kids are smart, though. They'll figure out how to reverse engineer anything. You know, actually, tangentially, I heard a story that there's now a rash of kids that are making Twitter accounts in posing as their school and then making statements that they then pass on to local news stations to try and get out of school for snow days.
What? No.
That's like when you hear a story about like an animal doing something human-like. You're like, whoa!
It's like when a bear gets up and walks on its hind legs. Like, that's
like an octopus like sneaks into a science lab where the crabs are and eats a couple. You're like, oh,
I think it worked for a couple times, and then eventually the news stations are starting to catch on.
How
now.
would they even, man, like, how do you get to that point as a kid? How do you just begin to even formulate that plot?
I don't know.
It's amazing.
Back in my day, they just dropped bomb threats over the phone. That's how we got out of school.
There you go.
Christ, Mathis.
I tried to fucking call into the. Well, okay, so I admittedly had the advantage of.
Here we go, Bear. Here we go.
is a
Bear's
felony.
like, I did it once.
Well, okay, I didn't even do anything about that bad. I'm just saying, like, I had puberty hit me at an age where I could go into the school bathroom and try to pretend to be my dad and say, oh, hey there, this is Mr. Larrabee.
went into the school bathroom, pretend to be your dad.
And call the school.
Little Timmy.
I forgot that. Okay, I did
That's all
forget. I did
over
forget that part. That's probably important for clarification.
Lord.
I would go into the school bathroom, call the school, then
Okay.
pretend to be my
No,
dad.
just leave that part out. Just 10 minutes, I'm just going to pretend to be my dad in the bathroom.
These urinals, sir, are looking interesting, son. I don't know if I'd trust this one. You should probably go to another bathroom. I would talk to myself. You know,
You made
it's
me
important.
cry.
It's so good.
Anyway,
But you
that's
would
not important
Call
anymore.
yourself out of school, essentially.
I tried to, yeah. It never really worked.
Tried to? It never worked?
It was maybe the acoustics of the bathroom, I think, that gave me away when it sounds like, hey, Alex is trying to get out of class today.
You're on the intercom, too, as your dad in the bathroom? What are you doing, man?
I got a redstone hookup to the PA system, man. This is how Minecraft works. Anyway,
Man, you can make cell phone calls into Minecraft now. So like,
What?
Really? You didn't see the Verizon like thing that they did?
no.
I'll send you. I'll send you the link. Hang on one
Well, that
second.
doesn't help us now. What happened?
Read us the link.
Well, like to like the video. Basically, they did this thing where you could call up, and they built a big phone in Minecraft, and if you did like a video call, and it would like show their face in a really pixelated way.
Hold the fuck on. Okay, now
Cell
we actually
phone
might need to have like a
call
visualization
Minecraft.
of
I think,
this.
Captain Sparkles did it. Yeah, here it is, right
Cell
here.
phone
Working cell
call
phone with web
Minecraft.
browser.
I'm gonna get content ID matched if I throw up a Captain
matter.
Sparkles video. Don't
Here you
I? This is. I can't believe this,
I just linked you.
man. All right. Well, I'm not gonna show it, but that is wild, man. So clearly, then there
Yeah,
is.
Yo, 2,000 people dislike this. This is like incredible functionality. People were like, "Oh, too bad. It's not an Android." Disliked.
Oh.
Oh my god. Okay. Well, Minecraft Educational Edition. It's around. It's crazy. I mean, there was a whole other part of this actually that we were going to talk about too. With
If you want to, it's just it's kind of technical. So I don't
Yeah,
know
I'm wondering if there's a way to maybe dumb it down a bit because I didn't even understand it when you guys were talking about it earlier.
The way that I see it, the higher order issue that people have is that Minecraft is made in Java, and then all of the mods for Minecraft that have been being produced for the past like 7 years, I guess 8 years, are all made in Java. Microsoft is making Minecraft Education Edition in C++, and there's a little bit, I wouldn't say a conspiracy, but a little bit of anxiety from existing modders that maybe that's a precursor to them making their own proprietary store for mods.
They said that they had that as an ambition, right? That they wanted to make it eventually a store to sell their own custom stuff. And it's also that the new version of Minecraft is going to be C++ on Windows 10.
Yes.
So that's
Only
like
on Windows 10 too, right?
Yeah, the educational edition is sort of an offshoot of that specifically.
Uh-huh.
So that's where those anxieties are coming out. And it could be reasonably construed that they could just want to cash in on this and create an artificial wall that says all these modders that have been making stuff for all these years, well, sorry, none of that's compatible anymore, so you can buy ours instead. That's the fear.
I mean, it's kind of interesting. I took the position when we were talking about it that Microsoft made a big investment in Mojang to buy Minecraft. It makes more sense for them if they're gonna like continue to make and support the game. It makes sense to put it in a language that they actually own, I guess, instead of a language that is maybe owned by one of their competitors.
Right.
And also, I mean, I don't know this enough, but it really seems like C# makes more sense to put it in if they were just going to be cynically like pushing it to another language that's proprietary for them. C++, maybe less cynically, gives them control over stuff that's closer to the metal and maybe improves performance, which I think is reason to be optimistic, but admittedly, I don't know if that's why they're doing it. I also don't know. I thought it was like Minecraft Pocket Edition runs on C++, so maybe they're just like, if they have to put it in C++ for the Pocket Edition, then maybe they just want it to be a unified
Architecture across everything.
Yeah.
code base, I guess, is what I'm trying.
That makes sense. I mean, it might just be an unintended but fortunate for them end that's how that goes, because then maybe, well, then they have that. Then they can decide to wall that off if they want, but they didn't necessarily do it out of malice. So
Yeah. It just sucks that has to be tied to the idea of Minecraft Education Edition being released. You know, it's like this. I would love for this not to be the sort of thing that even has a spark of controversy possibly tied to it.
it doesn't really have to do with that specifically. It just also is happening in parallel.
Yeah.
For the kids, it's not going to make any difference.
Right.
I'm apparently wrong, by the way. C++ is not owned by Microsoft.
Oh, well, that changes things then.
Welcome to programming. You know, C is not C#, is not C++. Java and JavaScript are completely different, you know.
Yeah.
Just life.
Life's
Yeah,
hard,
I don't
man.
know much about that stuff, unfortunately. So I guess we're a little bit on the whim of those who know more.
Well, all the same. Minecraft Education Edition. It's cool. I like it. Let's go to. So we're gonna read this story, but again, I want to mention the fact that this is not really the story that we're going to talk about.
Once upon a time.
The Witness, Jonathan Blow.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the successor, not related, I don't think,
out?
in any way, but the successor to
don't think
his
so.
game Braid, that a lot of people know about. It's coming out soon, but the price tag is something that a lot of people are a little upset about. It's been announced at $40, and that's US. I believe in Australia it's like 60, around 60, and then couldn't tell you the conversions, but $40 US. And that's, I mean, okay, so that right there, I don't think is really worth it. But I think this leads us very well into a conversation that I'm not sure we really have had in depth yet on this show. Which
You mean the conversation isn't worth it?
No, I mean like the idea of badgering the witness for its price specifically is not really worth getting into. But I'm
we could all go around and be like, I hate that idea. Oh, that idea is fine.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't really work. But
that's cool.
But the bigger idea at play here is what it is that makes us that hits us when we see a $40 price tag on the witness. What is it that makes us think, oh, that's too high? So instead of just,
if
ripping
we do
on
think that, which I personally don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that either. I think again, I've seen discussions, I've had discussions with people already about this, and I didn't and I agree. I remember Ryan saying this, and I actually wholly agree with him on Twitter. It's like there's all this talk of a controversy, but I don't see anybody yelling about the price.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like people are like, oh, there's huge controversy about this $40 price tag. But when I look, I'm like, who's yelling about a $40 price tag?
So
I don't see anybody yelling about it.
We're 2 stories removed from a non-story.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
But
now we're talking about the non-story on the show.
We can just allow it to be tangentially related, and I don't think we really have to clarify much more than that.
And again, as far as like if people are mad about it, we're in this weird state. I think in the indie industry that I saw Mike Bithell talking about on Twitter a little bit. This whole race to the bottom situation, where there's these indie developers are basically trying their damnedest to charge as little as possible for their game, because I think it's either they believe it's connected to success, or it's the only way in a sea of massive amounts of releases of indie games every day that they're going to make some money or make some sort of price or some profit rather.
Well, they could just look at the App Store, and that kind of tells them how that will go, because those are all free.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. But I think that's like the idea. And consumers, if people are getting upset about it, are getting used to the idea of all indie games being cheap and indie developers not charging what indie developers I think should be charging. As an example, I talked about this on Dan Giesling's talk show a little bit about if we take a look at some of the most recently released indie games, I'd pay much more for a lot of them than they're charging. And I used an example, it may not be the best example, but Nuclear Throne is what, $12? That's a game I could easily pay $15, $20 for how much content and value you get out of that game and how often you're going to play it. I would not see $20 for that game being that expensive, but they're charging half that. It's just it's a weird environment to be in right now.
I can definitely think of a couple off the top of my head that I would immediately think of as, I would be willing to pay more for that. Like Darkest Dungeon, a game that we're going to be talking about a lot more later on, is probably one that I could see myself honestly paying like $40 for, just out of the sheer amount of hours I've gotten out of it.
Yeah.
Rocket League probably falls in that same category. I could see myself paying like $30-40 for Rocket League easy.
Terraria.
Yeah, Terraria. Terraria, I think, has got to be like far and away the clearest
60, I would have
example
had no problem with.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. Looks like we're dropping a few frames here. Apologize for that, guys. But yeah, like I sort of want to focus a little bit more on maybe whether or not we can pinpoint things that we can identify as like, specifics that we look for as far as identifying what it is that makes us want to buy things for a certain price.
In indie games, for sure, I feel like the visual style is probably the biggest indicator of what a game's price point should be for most people. Mm-hmm. If you see something that's like pixel art, usually people are like,
$10.
That's a $5 or $10 game.
$5 or $10.
Yeah.
And then something that's a little bit more polished or high res or has a unique art style. I'm thinking of like, I don't know, Shovel Knight and Tharsis looks cool. Darkest Dungeon. Even Braid, if you go back like 7 years, like that stuff, people are like, okay, I'll pay like an extra little premium for that. Like you get into the 15 to 20 range. And then there isn't really, I think, a benchmark that I can think of for $40 games that is like standard right now. Like when I think of a $40 game, that is like a really, really robust quote-unquote AAA indie game, or it's a AAA game that they don't have much confidence in and they think it's going to be like a niche product or something like that, so they put it out at 40 to be like, okay.
I know what it is. It's AAA games that released a year or two ago that then got like somehow localized or sent over to PC.
Yeah.
So like, for example, like Blaze Blue or something came out 2 years ago, some updated version. Then they poured over last year's version.
Or they got the collector's edition to release at the same time.
Right, or they add some DLC in and then it raised it from 30 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're also in this, like, our industry is super weird in that and maybe books are like this, but I can't think of any other kind of media that's like this, where we judge the game, we like assign a valuation to the game. Whereas if you leave a movie, you don't go, I would have paid like $8 for that movie, or I would have paid $30 for that movie. You just go, that movie was good or that movie was bad. Movies just cost what movies cost. But when it comes to like games, people are like, yeah, I liked it, but I would have liked it more if it was like $2 cheaper, because there's no standard price.
It's weird.
It's just like what you pay.
Yeah, it's weird that there's like this idea that when you think of a price of a game, you're going in already expecting a very certain level of polish or just kind of playability. Like you said, you think $40. Like, whoa, what do you think of when you think $40? A game that a AAA developer doesn't have confidence in, so you're going in, expecting a game that's not going to be as fun as maybe a $60 game where you expect the best of the best, or a $5 or $10 indie game where you're like, oh, this will be fun, but production values will be low, like that kind of thing. It's really weird that we assign expectations to price.
Well, and for the same reason that we don't seem to think indie games are capable of going up, AAA games for some reason aren't capable of going down either.
Yeah.
Regardless of how short they are or what the production values might be, they just coast on name alone most of the time, it seems. So that seems a bit odd to me too.
I think maybe a part of it that we even subconsciously attribute to it would be the size of the team behind it, because I think I can see myself. Looking at a game that was only made by one person and they're charging like $10 or $15 for it. And I don't know, maybe I have like an easier time justifying that price tag if I think, oh, it's just the one guy. Yeah, I think he probably deserves this with clearly how much work it took for him to do all that. Like, just an example off the top of my head, I guess, would just be Undertale for Toby Fox, right? You look at that, and it's probably pretty easy to look at that and say, this shouldn't cost me any more than $10, right? That, I think, is kind of fair, just given the overall environment that we just described for pricing right now. But I think a different part for that for me was just seeing all the different parts of this at the end of my experience with the game, and then realizing, damn, yeah, that is a lot of time and investment and just passion that I think I can feel really good about having spent this much money on. But clearly, I'm not able to make that judgment call ahead of time, which is sort of defeating the point. But the size of team may be something that we consider a little bit more often than we realize.
There's also perceived value too. And for example, if Undertale was priced at $30, people might assume there's more going on there than if it was priced at $10.
Mm-hmm. Well, you hope that, I guess.
You'd
right?
hope that,
yeah.
but it's not always guaranteed, and that's, I guess, what reviewers are there to fix or provide that information. So, yeah, does that seem to have value for you at $30? I think it probably would for me, but I think you're going to run into a lot less people that would agree at that point.
Yeah, there's got to be, like, I guess there's just a threshold where it starts to just spark a little bit of, okay, now you're dipping into higher price waters that we're not going to feel as comfortable about.
In a way, in games, I think that setting the price of the game is almost part and parcel with the marketing of the game itself. Like if you market your game or bring it to market, I guess at $15, that tells people, or people will make assumptions about the game as a result of that. They're going to be like, well, it's not an hour long, or if it is, it's replayable. It's got a reasonable degree of polish behind it, and blah blah blah. If you bring a game to Steam at $5, let's put it this way: if you brought a game to Steam at $3, you would be like, this could be 45 minutes long. It probably looks not visually that appealing or amazing. And I think like that's something that a lot of indie developers have to concern themselves with. Like, not only is it, yes, at this price you'll probably sell less units, at this price you'll probably sell more units, and maybe there's an optimal point on the curve, but if you were to come out with... I don't think Darkest Dungeon is a good example for this. I think if you came out with Nuclear Throne at $30, people would be mad, not even just because of, like, perceived loss of value, but they'd be like, this doesn't fit $30 game in my head.
Yeah,
Right,
like-
that's what I was talking about, where we have perceived like ideas of what we're going to get with each price tag.
yeah.
But is that helpful or is that useful? It's just sort of what has happened, but
It's
is
just what's
more than
happened.
tradition.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
definitely just become part of our environment. It's just like, yeah, we accept that this is just sort of the tier list, I guess, of pricing that we've created in our heads.
Right. So I actually have a lot of respect that Jonathan Blow would want to set this at $40 because in a way it's bucking a trend that had no reason to be in the first place. I mean, I would have actually not have had a problem if he just said this is a $60 game because I feel it's a $60 game. That takes some balls to say that. And whether or not it falls short, that's up to the people playing it. But to just project that he has this level of self-worth that it's like, I'm not going to undervalue my product. I worked for years on this.
So maybe
That's
it's just a
cool.
point of even further clarification then. What would you say is what makes you feel like you'd pay $60 for The Witness?
Wait, what makes us feel like
Well,
we
like
would?
Nick in particular, I was really
Yeah.
specifically asking, but
It's got a level of polish just from what I can see and the level of effort that it seems he's put into it. I mean, I haven't played it still, so I might be wrong. But it seems like he's got a lot going on in there, and it's got a lot of depth.
yeah,
And it also just happens to strike me personally in an area where I just love that type of game.
right.
It's a first-person puzzle game, and it looks visually beautiful.
Yeah.
So right there, I want to support that.
He's also billed it as having like 250 hours
Oh, I
of
didn't even know
content
that.
in it.
That's ridiculous.
You didn't
Yeah, I
know
mean-
that and you were willing for 60. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, I'm assuming like that's probably like if you do absolutely everything, and then like if it takes you as long as expected, but still, like it's a robust game. I think it looks great. Like it looks visually interesting.
Yeah.
And also, like I kind of feel like it passes like every check for like should this game be sort of expensive? Like he spent like 9 years making it. Like when you look at a $10 or $15 game on Steam, most of the time you're looking at a team, but you're looking at a team working for like 2 or 3 years. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But I think this hits all those boxes. Like it looks good,
Right.
long, and presumably at least. And like he worked his ass off for it for a long time. Like Braid came out in 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is
it's
possible
crazy when
that-
you think about that. Yeah.
It's possible the structure of the game might end up being infuriatingly frustrating or something, but I won't know that until I start playing it. So at face value, I'm pretty cool with that idea.
It could be like really shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes out next week. It could be horrible. I hope it's not. But
We are hoping to find out. I think we're going to be talking
Yeah.
about it on the show next week as well, ideally.
I'll
but,
be playing it day and date, like no matter what happens.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I guess the question isn't so much like, is it going to be worth $40? Because we won't know that until it's out. I mean, the question is more like, you know, is it worth being mad about it being $40?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's-
We're trying to identify what it is that's making people think, oh, 40 is too much for this.
Yeah, I always take the position that like if you're getting mad about something, like the onus is on you to kind of prove why you should be mad. And I don't think people were really mad about it. They were more just like, oh, I kind of expected that to be like $20.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's like business as usual, basically.
The easiest comparison that I'm not even sure we mentioned yet for The Witness, for those of you who may even be in that camp of, yeah, I am a little bit annoyed that the $40 price tag is there, the Talos Principle actually was a pretty comparable game to The Witness. It's probably going to be shorter, I guess, if 250 hours is to be believed. But Talos Principle launched at $40 as well and is very similar in concept. So it's not the first game to try to break ground here, but it is certainly one of the more noteworthy, considering Jonathan Blow is more or less an indie superstar at this point.
Yeah, so yeah. I was thinking too how it would compare to something like the art world, where you might have a piece that, unless you know the context of it, it makes no like sense at all that it's worth $50,000.
Yeah.
Like, how does that kind of thing happen? I don't think it really maps to anything to do with the indie game space, but like the fact that games are still art, that's art. You could probably draw a few parallels. What if everybody just picked a price for their games that's not based on any scale at all?
Yeah, exactly. I can tell you something that'll totally fuck over your entire view of what is worth what in video games. You guys ever heard of Entropia Universe?
No.
So it's this insane MMO. I only know about this because there was a top trending video that was something like the 10 most expensive in-game purchases or something like that. They are selling in-game items in this game for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I don't know how I hadn't gone, or like, I don't know how I've gone so long without hearing about it, because a couple of these purchases are actually like millions of dollars. And they're buying like entire planets and things in this game. And well, that's what I'm saying is if that worth is tied to that, then maybe I can pay $40 for The Witness. Maybe I feel okay about that, so long as I don't have to spend $450,000 on a sword.
If Jonathan Blow charged $450,000 for The Witness, I would take issue with it. That's
It would
like
be
14
prohibitive.
times the
Yeah.
average salary, man.
Yeah, that's a little excessive.
So then what would happen is one person or 5 people would buy it at that price and the rest would just pirate it.
Yeah, it'd be like the
And then
Wu-Tang
would
album
that-
of indie games.
Exactly. Would that be worth it? Maybe. It could be a really radical experiment in marketing
Sure.
to release it like that.
What the hell is Entropian Universe?
It's wild, man. It's not even necessarily
Wild
that
sounds like my
noteworthy.
kind of
Yeah, I
game.
know. That's right up your alley. I only base it on those price tags, though. I don't even honestly know what goes on in the game. Probably a lot of virtual sex, if I'm being real, but,
It's like Second Life.
yeah, probably something like that. Well, The Witness, probably one of the games in 2016 that you're most looking forward to, I'd say, right, Nick?
Yes, that is definitely one of the 2 that I mentioned.
What would be your other one?
Well, I've got a bunch in the barrel, but I'm going to say Enter the Gungeon is the one that I would probably be most excited for. I don't know exactly when it's coming out anymore, but I'm very excited to get into it more. I think it's a lot to do with the fact that I've just spent so many hours in Isaac lately that I'm kind of craving something a little bit in that formula, but also out at the same time. Something to do with the Isaac like hitboxes and game feel that I'd like a break in something similar but different.
Yeah.
And I think Enter the Gungeon definitely fills that role for me.
Man, I still haven't been able to play this one. I've really been looking forward to it, too. Like, what would you say are the comparisons to Isaac that you make here? So, I mean,
Well, it's
the map
procedurally
is-
generated,
Yeah.
a bunch of randomized weapons that you can run into, like not just a bunch, like hundreds. It's structured sort of similarly in that there's floors and bosses at the end of each floor. I mean, I haven't played the finished version or what's closest to the finished version, so I'm not sure how they're changing or tweaking the formula, but of the version I played, that's how it was going, and I was very happy with it. It has a bit more of a twitchy feeling, too, than Isaac, where a lot of it is, in Isaac, you're just kind of casually dodging bullets, walking, weaving in and out. This is more like you snap out of the way, you jump and dodge and roll, or you use cover, which, granted, yeah, you use rocks and stuff in Isaac, but it's a little bit more visceral in a weird way.
Makes sense. Mathis, what are you most looking forward to playing in 2016?
I really am looking forward to the new Deus Ex. I'm very excited about that. I really like the other one that came out, 2012, 13? A few years
a
ago?
little earlier than that. That was Human
Might have
Revolution,
been.
right?
Human
That was-
Revolution.
That was
Yeah.
11, if I remember
Okay.
correctly.
I really I loved it. It was a really good mix of like RPG and shooter mechanics. I had a great time with it, so I'm really pumped for the new one. Even though there is a little bit of skepticism around Square Enix lately, especially with the Hitman announcement and all that stuff. But I'm still excited to play it, and hopefully it won't suck.
I hope it's not all
And
gold.
then yeah,
I really
obviously
was tired of the gold filter.
Yeah.
obviously, as Chad knows, Honeycam Studio. I can't wait for that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Mathis, how do you feel that every game that you love is getting banned on Twitch?
I mean, Andre Simulator got banned. Honey Pop was banned. I'm sure Honeycam Studio will be banned. But the other one I think is you and I are both looking forward to, Ryan, which is out in like a week, is XCOM 2. As like
Yeah.
huge strategy fan,
Yeah.
I'm itching to play that game. I cannot wait to start playing XCOM 2. I loved XCOM, and I actually recently went back and played a little bit of the original XCOM for like a half hour, 45 minutes. It's like it's just I can't.
Like
It's
the
too
90, 93.
Yeah, that
XCOM,
game
okay.
Did you ever play that game?
Nah.
It's unforgiving. It is.
Yeah.
Because in XCOM 1, when you see an alien, like it pops and you then they get to act. In the
Yeah.
original XCOM, that's not true. They're acting off camera even if you can't see them. So there are
Okay,
shots
yeah.
coming from the fog of war that don't reveal where they are, and they're just killing your soldiers. And this is before you have the technology to actually work against them. So they're just murdering you off camera.
It's a lot of luck at the beginning, if I remember
Oh, yeah.
correctly. And then you get past a certain point, you kind of have the tools to deal with them later on.
It's like, oh, hey, they mind controlled my rocket soldier on turn 1, and my rocket soldier just blew up all of my soldiers. GG, I'm done.
There's more
but-
diversity, too, in the aliens, I thought, in the original XCOM, right? Weren't
There
there
was
like
a lot of
10 or
diversity.
15 different aliens?
Yeah, there were a lot.
A common complaint about XCOM Enemy Within and Enemy Unknown is that a lot of the aliens are just reskinned versions of other ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the Muton, there's like 200 Mutons. There's a Muton, the Berserker, Muton Elite. I guess there's only 3, but still.
I would agree if you're like looking forward to or looking for a more classic XCOM feel, Xenonauts is where it's at. It's basically like a revamped version of the old XCOM. But XCOM 2 looks great. I love the idea that they went with the alternate ending where the aliens won, they took over, and now you're kind of this guerrilla warfare unit that's going around the world trying to make contacts and fighting against an established empire, essentially, and trying to take them down. I want to play it so bad. I can't wait.
I'm a little mad, not mad, but like irked. What's the lowest on the scale from content to fear? I'm a little
miffed, yeah.
'Cause they didn't tell us our preview access was going to end like in advance of the review access. So I've been doing like the XCOM 2 series, and then it just stopped working one day, and I was like, hey, what's up? And they're like, oh, well, we're like pushing review builds now, and the review build embargo is like in February. It's closer to release at least. So I'm like, shit, I just lost like my chance. But chat says peeved. Maybe I don't know. Peeved is higher than miffed. Miffed is like when you ask for no mustard and they put mustard on your sandwich, but you still like mustard. Peeved is like when you're allergic to mustard.
Yeah.
Chagrined is way too far.
That's over the line here.
Look, we already settled this. You don't need to keep going.
I'll go to mine here real quick. I am going to go ahead and say Far Cry Primal at the mercy of those who would call me Ubisoft lackey once again.
I could be with you on that one. I'm pretty excited for it too.
I like Far Cry a lot, I'll be honest. It's probably one of my favorite series, not just Ubisoft series, but of the last like 5 years or so. I've really enjoyed Far Cry 4 especially. I didn't love the story in Far Cry 3. I don't think many people did, but the gameplay has always been really satisfying to me, and they're beautiful games as well. Obviously, Ubisoft always makes pretty damn good-looking games. But Far Cry Primal, I really like the premise of this, honestly. I think it's a really cool idea, and if it plays anything like the Far Cry games, this is a really cool match, in my opinion. I love the just the feel of it. Just watching the gameplay that I'm watching right now, the wooden bow that they're holding, it's all very archaic. And it seems like they're really gonna hold fast to the idea of this is all, like this is way before technology, and you're old school here. You're really gonna have to figure stuff out using the laws of nature and things like that.
Have you had a chance to play it at all? Were you at that?
I haven't been able to do it yet. No, they don't like me anymore. I don't think they're bringing me to too many things.
Have you watched much on it? Because I was going to ask you a specific question about it.
I probably wouldn't be able to answer it.
Oh, because there's like an animal training element in this, which I thought was really
taming
odd.
the animals. Yeah. It's sort of like a supernatural thing, isn't it? Like
I don't know. I just know that he was like training an eagle or a hawk and like a panther and like sicking them on stuff, and like I get why that makes sense to be like over the top, but I'd rather it be more simulatory if possible. Personally.
I wonder if there's going to be any towers to climb.
There'll be mountains.
I'm dead serious. Like, I wonder if they're going to implement it.
There's bonfires in mountains, I think.
I mean, it's not a bad guess. I'd hope it would be mountains here. That would be pretty sweet.
Well, yeah, obviously it won't be like...
Yeah, it might be an owl, actually.
Yeah, but no, like we're seeing this right now. Like what I'm watching here in the gameplay is what you're just describing. Is there's a wolf that he's trained, and he's now like sicking it on other animals to take him down. It seems like you just met the wolf like a few minutes ago, so you're really making a pretty quick bond there. But he's really willing to share his food with you too. Oh, this is so precious of a moment for them. Oh, and then they killed the yak. All right, but
I hope there's radio towers and there's like an alien invasion twist.
Okay, I like that. I can go with that. Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Mash it up with XCOM a little bit.
I really wanted to see what it is.
As long as like they keep making one pretty good Far Cry game every 2 years, I'm not super excited about it, but I'll play it. Like I really liked Far Cry 4, and I thought Far Cry 3 maybe even was better than Far Cry 4, even though I didn't finish it. But I'll probably play Primal. It slipped my mind that it was coming out this year, which to me indicates... Oh, it comes out like in the spring?
It's like
February,
it's like in February.
Yeah. I think it might be like February 23rd or something like
that. Comes out in 3 weeks. That's crazy.
That's what's hilarious is like I asked you guys before the show, hey, we're going to do a preview for 2016 thing, and we all pick games that are coming out in like a month, and we have nothing left to look forward to at the end of the year. But, I mean, it's good for us. That means February is looking pretty sweet. We got a lot of really awesome stuff to play already, clearly. And then the other one I've got on my list is going to be The Last Guardian, which is a game that seems to finally actually be coming out in 2016. So that's pretty fantastic.
Should we bet on that?
I will bet on it. Yeah, I'm gonna count my chickens before they hatch this year.
Put a 10 on it not coming out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Place your bets in chat on 2016 being the release year for The Last Guardian. But oh man, just everything about it, dude. I'm looking so much forward to it. Like I've had a Team Eco itch for years now, and
Yeah.
I thought Titan Souls was gonna scratch it a little bit, but I don't think it necessarily did. So this is the kind of thing I've been waiting from them for a long time. Like the sense of scale is just so fucking fantastic in everything they do. So I can't wait to see their next gen attempt. It's going to be really awesome in my opinion. I have really high hopes for it, and I'm letting myself get hyped up for this one too, which is going to hopefully not result in a horrible crash come well, I guess there's not a really hard set month, but still that's why we're betting. But yeah, Last Guardian would be my other one. And Ryan, you had one more you were going to do as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking for stuff, and to be honest with you, if you asked me to name like 20 games that come out this year, I probably couldn't do it. But I'm excited to see what Firewatch is all about because Looks so good. I haven't really played like a narrative focused game like that in probably like 18 months, and then Campo Santo is kind of like the super group for that, right? Like they have the head designer from Mark of the Ninja, and then they've got a couple of people from the original season of The Walking Dead from Telltale. And that's been in the works for at least a year or 2 years. So I'm excited to see what they've got going. It seems like an ambitious kind of narrative-focused game that it kind of breaks out of the mold where a lot of narrative-focused games are kind of like devoid of action, if that makes sense. Like it seems like there's kind of some maybe more visceral excitement in this one. But to be honest with you, I don't know that much about it. I'm just excited on pretty much pedigree alone.
Yeah.
I remember seeing previews and I'm like, is it a survival game? And I was like, oh, sweet, I'm excited. But if it's in narrative, I'm even more excited for it. I'm just not sure what to expect out of it, I guess.
I'm not sure it's really a survival game. I think it's kind of a narrative guided through a survival forest area.
More of like a Dear Esther sort of thing with a little bit more gameplay is sort of the vibe I'm getting.
DEER Esther.
Yeah, that's good. There you go.
I'm also excited for Overwatch.
That's okay. Yeah.
Things that end in watch. Yeah, we got
Sure.
there.
Yeah. Let's get that list going.
Overwatch. I mean, I got to play for that weekend and I like loved it, and I'm pumped. I'm really excited for it. So that's in my list.
Yeah.
And we're gonna play Dark Souls 3 this year.
Oh,
Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I actually forgot about
that's
that.
coming out.
Let's do the breakdown, I guess, real quick. We were gonna go for like the quick synopsis, but yeah, for those wondering what they can actually look forward to for the remainder of this year, you got Uncharted 4 is on the way later this year as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was a good year.
It is.
Is Stellaris this year? Really?
Should be, yeah.
Yeah. No Man's Sky is gonna be coming out this year, I believe.
Not actually.
Tom Clancy's The Division, I think is
The
one.
beta is actually PAX South weekend, which makes me really sad.
And then there's some new IPs, I think, that are coming around this year that I'm kind of excited for as well. There's the one that I always forget the name of that we saw at E3. No, Cuphead I am really excited for, though. I think I'm really going to enjoy Cuphead.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh yeah, no, I want that.
Maybe.
That's the future past dinosaur bow and arrow game.
That's the one with the...
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's
Far
right.
Cry Primal.
That was the best description I've heard, actually.
Yeah, Battleborn, of course, as well. Unravel was the one we were talking about from EA last show, I believe. That's the puzzle platformer that uses yarn, sort of like Kirby's Epic Yarn, I believe, that sort of art style. And then, well, actually, not that art style, but like that sort of... I guess a mechanic, right? The yarn being a mechanic there. And then a few others as well. Homefront Revolution here.
Heavy Rain is coming to PS4.
Is it? Oh.
I guess they're remastering it. That seemed kind
Are
of
they
out of
going to
nowhere.
fix the story? Because
I don't know what they're doing to it. I haven't seen anything about it. It's got a date of March.
Huh.
David Cage.
There you go. Oh my God, and Hyper Light Drifter's coming out this year. Yeah, you guys remember Hyper Light Drifter? That I've seen that at PAXs a couple of times. That
Inside, the new game from the Limbo team.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
That's been a long time coming too.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years, yeah.
And Star Citizen going to be a big release.
That is not going to be.
Yeah, become a citizen
not this
today.
year. No,
No, it's not.
I
I think they're aiming for 2017 release.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Mirror's
bummer.
Edge Catalyst.
Mirror's Edge
And
Catalyst. Oh my goodness, yeah. And then and Dishonored 2 as well. Another game I didn't really expect to get a sequel. Did do okay though. I guess maybe merited
Persona
it.
5.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to my fellow Persona fans.
Yeah. Big year. But 2015, I don't know, man. I don't think 2016 is going to be able to compete with 2015 unless we get blown away by a couple of these entries. 2015
Give it a run for its money, I think.
But 2015 was a strong year, man. It was crazy. It was really good. We were spoiled.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of it potentially being a strong year, though, I think we've got a pretty good start to the year here. I want to jump into Darkest Dungeon real quick, if you guys
Sure.
just came
What's
out.
that game?
Yeah,
Tell me about it.
Darkest Dungeon is a challenging turn-based RPG, gothic style. A lot of H.P. Lovecraft influences that are pretty evident in this one. Just came out of early access on January 19th. It was in early access from last January, so they went through pretty much an entire year in early access. Another example, in my opinion, of an early access game done right. I think Red Hook did an excellent job at listening to player feedback for Darkest Dungeon, making updates frequently, keeping players involved and part of the update process as well. They were really active on their subreddit. They were really active on their own forums, always listening to feedback and making changes as they felt they needed to. But the game itself is so much better, in my opinion, than it used to be in the early access release. So you guys all played. Well, I think Mathis might be the only one that never played the early access.
No, I played the early access.
Okay, but you haven't played the new one, the
Yeah,
full
I haven't
release.
played
yeah.
it. Yeah, exactly. I haven't had time to play the full release. I wanted to yesterday, but I just didn't obviously have the opportunity.
So I'm curious what you guys remember of the early access version and how we can just describe how it's changed
Oh shit,
Tomo!
You can tell because he's a chunky kitty.
Yo,
Bye, Tomo.
Bye, Tomo.
the doctor said they were within the normal range.
since then. Yeah, all right. Normal
That cat
cats.
is massive, man. They're ragdolls.
Yeah,
are
ragdolls.
They're the
are big.
second largest breed of cat, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're adorable all the way through. What I remember from Darkest Dungeon, getting my ass kicked
Yeah.
over and over and over again, and getting frustrated and quitting.
There you go.
'Cause that was bad.
It is hard. Okay, we should start off with that. It's a very difficult game. I sort of have become I feel like an asshole because I keep recommending this game to people and then they come back to me and they're like, you didn't tell me that it would ruin my life and make me destroy on my keyboard, man.
You know,
Because-
the way I approached it was a little weird. Like, I named the characters like everybody else did, and I got really attached to them. And I got so attached to them that I didn't want to put them in any risky positions.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up sort of grinding the same few areas in the beginning over and over again. Also, I knew there was no end to the game, so I didn't want to push very far.
Right.
But I never actually got to the point where it became really hard. So
Really?
I was kind of happy with that because I just kept grinding the beginning.
It does have that how in XCOM I've heard, I haven't actually played it myself, but I've heard that you do get quite attached to characters in XCOM as well, so it has that going for it
I didn't want
too.
to lose anybody.
Yeah, man, it's tough.
I've heard. I mean, like, I guess I don't know if it's true or not because again, I haven't really put too much time into Darkest Dungeon outside of like its initial release, but it's less about. In Darkest Dungeon, it's less the people are less about keeping them and making them good, and more about using them as a resource, because you constantly are having like this flow of people into Darkest
yeah, yeah.
Dungeon. So they're more of a resource than they are of like permanent fixtures on your team. Where XCOM soldiers become permanent fixtures on your team.
Okay.
There's
yeah, that makes sense.
you make them super soldiers. I mean, late in the game, for Christ's sake.
Right.
Outside of like a couple scripted missions, you like anybody can become an awesome soldier in XCOM.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do end up just sending rookies like with a grenade pulled to blow something up, but once they level up, they get pretty strong. But what I remember from the early access build of Darkest Dungeon was that sometimes like your characters would get great, but they'd also get like progressively more baggage. And I remember it being interesting, like the dismiss function, like that was really foreign to me coming from XCOM. Like Mathis was saying, like the idea that sometimes you'll roll someone who's shitty, and you're like, get out of here.
Yeah.
I need to like hire you and fire you to get somebody else, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was nice actually, like in the early stages too, to realize that hey, if I roll with the level 0 that ends up getting totally shit on, I can just kick them out and get a new person and substitute them out.
right.
But then, of course, you get to the later game, and then it just becomes more and more devastating when you start to lose those higher level characters, man. Like, the permadeath functionality in this game is, I think, one of the major appeals to it, just because there's so much at stake when you go into those higher level dungeons. Like, I've been playing, this is like a minor spoiler for endgame content, but I've been playing in the final area in the darkest dungeon, and when you enter the darkest dungeon, like the actual place, you are given a warning that says, I don't remember exactly what it says, but basically, if you go in here, you can't leave without sacrificing someone. So you are committed. Yeah, if you go in, if you try to leave, one person's going to die. And I believe it chooses it at random if you do try to retreat.
And you got to go in with your best group, or you're not going to have a chance.
Absolutely.
So you're going to have to
go in with your
best
crew, with your A team, with like all the best gear you've got.
That's good game design, man.
Yeah,
that's smart.
Absolutely. No, I've been saying this a few times. As someone who has played from early access all the way to now, I love what the Darkest Dungeon is. I love what the final dungeon is. I think it's exactly the right amount of challenge. I feel like it is so deserving of the title, and it's what people have been wanting, what the build-up has been for, is to see this place that just destroys you and is just completely merciless and is really rewarding to beat as well. So this is going to actually play into our conversation we're going to have a little bit later in the show today regarding finishing games. But yeah, I feel like Darkest Dungeon has the strength of, not only is it satisfying to progress into level up, but it does also have a really good end game, it has really good end game content too.
Is there a hard lose condition, or do you just kind of give up when you no longer have a chance to get through an area?
You can kill all of your people, but then you just get new people from the stagecoach and just start fresh from there. There's not really a way that you can, unless you're playing New Game Plus, then there is a game over in certain conditions there. But normally through the game, no, there's not really a hard lose condition at all.
You take the new group of people and start, like, you can go back to the initial dungeon, right? And just do that again.
It's always so you have this mission select screen. I'll see if I can actually pull it up right here in the video real quick. But you have this mission select screen that is always respawning different options. So you've got the ones that are going to go into the easy level dungeons, the medium level dungeons, and the hard level dungeons that are always shuffling through all these different areas. So you've got the ruins, the weald, the warrens, and the cove, and then you've got the darkest dungeon, which is your final area. And I like the way they did that, because it as Nick said, as Mathis said, I believe it was, that you have to use your people as resources a lot of the time. You do have to cycle teams out, because stress will pile onto your characters and make it a lot more difficult for them to be effective in the dungeons. So you always got to be aware of like a whole bunch of different factors, not only the stress, but the kind of quirks they have, the kind of afflictions they've got. Maybe they've got a disease that you need to go treat in the sanitarium or something like that. And then you've got your stats that you want to improve as well. And then you've got your gear that you want to assign to different people. So there's a lot of different factors at play that are not that difficult, in my opinion, to get a pretty solid handle on. So it works pretty well there too.
I've only played like maybe half an hour of the release build, so I haven't really seen much of the new stuff. I've seen corpses, basically, is the thing that's new to me, but apparently it's been in there for like 8 months or something like that. But the thing about Darkest Dungeon that always interests me the most for conversations like this is kind of like that Tharsis principle of a lot of people
scientific.
A lot of people really dislike it because of the fact that it's explicitly, transparently RNG heavy. So I mean, I really love the systems that play in Darkest Dungeon a lot. I think Darkest Dungeon is probably like the best 2D strategy game I've played in years that I can think of, at least. Like, I mean, admittedly, I haven't played the new Fire Emblems, but still, like, I really, really enjoy Darkest Dungeon, but I understand that a lot of people absolutely hate it and find it, like, intolerable because of the fact that it has that RNG aspect thrown in as well.
Right.
Yeah, Admiral Baru, actually, a member of Main Menu, was playing, and he had that exact issue where he just got completely fucked over by RNG just, like, 3 or 4 times in a row, which can happen, and I know that that's something I'm empathetic to about this game, is that, yeah, you can get totally screwed at any point and just get crit 3 times in a row and have 3 party members die without you being able to do anything. It happens. Yeah, it's happened to me. But I don't know. I don't think I would really fault it too much for that. I feel like the RNG is, like you said, it's pretty transparent. So I feel like because I understand the potential of what could happen a little bit better than, say, something like Tharsis, where there really is a bunch of possibilities of RNG just absolutely screwing you over with you having no input whatsoever. But this game, I think there's enough at play for you to be able to control the things you feel like you want to control throughout the course of a run. That's my feel, though. I'm clearly a big fan of the game. Like, I don't think there's any hiding that. I think this is one of my favorite games of the past couple of years. But
I'm pumped to dive into it today. Like, after this, it's one of the things I plan on playing a bit tonight and seeing what's changed and just trying to enjoy it. Because I did enjoy my time with it. I remember I got fucked over a lot in the game, but that was a lot of that can be attributed to poor play on my part. It wasn't really the RNG that fucked me when I initially played. It was just me being bad. But I liked what I played at the time, and I'm really excited to just kind of play more of it. So bring it on.
Eric, can you completely mitigate the RNG? Like, if you grind long enough, can you get past it so you can't just get killed?
No, you can't. I mean, well, especially when you're looking at the end game content, too. I'm going to go back to talking about the actual Darkest Dungeon. Sending level 6s into there, it almost feels like you're sending level 6s into a level 7. If that makes sense. Like, you are going into a place... Position. Yeah, you can only become so prepared for this. And there's a point there where it's just like, well, okay, I'm going to go in here, and I sort of am just at the will of the Darkest Dungeon gods at some time. There's never really a point where you can eliminate it completely, though.
Kate calling me out in chat. I got mad at it because I was losing a lot, and I admit that. Like, I was blaming the game when it was me. Like, and I've had many months to mull over it. I'm fully aware that it was me being freaking terrible, and there was RNG problems with it. And I have complained about the RNG, but I'm also aware that a lot of it was me playing poorly.
Yeah,
I can see my trajectory. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. What's funny is that it's definitely harder now. So I'm sort of worried for you to get back into it. Like I think it's unquestionably harder now than it was in early access. Although, on the flip side of that coin, too, the trinkets have been balanced much better now. Trinkets used to be just so silly in this game. There would be things that would just, like, say, for example, you have a character that has blight skills, and then there would be a trinket specific to that character that would only boost their bleed skill chance for some reason, and it would make no sense at all. You have no idea why that's even associated with that trinket, but they've fixed, like, the grand majority of those, so I'm glad they did that, too.
When I think back to 2015, if I had to make like a top 10 best games of 2015 list, I think Darkest Dungeon definitely would have been on there for me. So, I mean, I'm going to start my series probably later today. I'm excited to play more of it. I think if you have not experienced Darkest Dungeon at all, it's definitely going to be one of the games that's in that conversation when the year ends. Like, I think it's one of those games that if you have any interest at all, you should probably pick it up and play it because people are going to be talking about it. And I mean, I put 40 hours into the pre-release build, so it's more than you get out of most games. So it's probably more than you get out of like 85% of games that you end up purchasing on an annual basis. So, like, I'm definitely pro Darkest Dungeon. I think that game is really good.
Awesome. Anybody else?
I'm just thinking about my like long-term perspective on it, and having not played a ton of hours in it, what I think is going to happen for me is I'll enjoy it up until I get totally crushed. And then I'll just go, I'm not playing any more of this. And that's not even the game's fault. I think it's just my personal preference is that the game loop of it is a little bit slow and a little bit repetitive. And you have to get really invested in the characters. And the thing is, I get so invested that once I no longer have that investment, I just feel like I don't care.
Yeah, that's fair.
It just feels like I'm wasting my time then. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with the game. That's the way it's designed. It's just my own personal failing in that one. So for that reason, I'll probably play it a bit, but I'm probably not going to get super diehard into it like you guys are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's helped me out a lot to have played it so much because now I really enjoy it even more just because I have, in my opinion, just such a good understanding of most of the aspects of the game. So it's one that gets better the more you play it, which is also a pretty stalwart recommendation for it. That's Darkest Dungeon out of early access this week over on Steam for $20, and there's also the soundtrack edition you can get for $25. And there's
that's weird. I never would have considered that the soundtrack would have been an addition for a game like this.
Yeah, me too. Actually, yeah.
I don't mean it negatively, but I don't think whenever I play Darkest Dungeon, I'm like, the music's there. It's not bad, but
I have a totally different opinion to that, honestly.
Really?
I think the music is one of the more integral parts of this game. The dark music, especially when you go torchless through the dungeon, if you remember that, it gets, oh man, the full orchestra, and especially in the introductory cutscene too. Like, man, they just really set the tone well with that music. I think it's a pretty huge part of it.
I just can't imagine setting that atmosphere in my home.
Okay, well that's true. Yeah, I don't know if I would ever.
Yeah. I don't necessarily mean that the music is bad. But just more like I guess I don't see. Yes,
okay,
I don't see the opportunity to do that. But
I don't see myself doing the dishes and listening to that music either.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
That's a fair assessment.
You'd be like, it's getting like real macabre up in here right now.
Changing the cat litter.
Expect to see blood start to trickle out of the faucet at any second. All right. Another game that came out of early access this week is going to be Move or Die, one that we all have played quite a bit. Actually did one of those tournaments of shame way back in the day for Move or Die. Who won that one? Was that? I think that was Rob actually that won that one.
it was Rob, yeah.
No, Rob won Duck Game.
Oh
Right?
yeah, Rob won Duck Game. That's right. And
Did
then
I win?
I think Nick might have
might
won.
Yeah.
I think I won. Post advantage.
We
Yeah,
also
post
played
advantage.
it. We played it on
Yeah.
the show yesterday for like an hour.
oh nice.
How is it? Okay, so the important question is online not shit?
Yep, exactly.
No.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay.
Online, the net code. I don't know if it's the net code or just the way that it's interpreted, but there's a huge host advantage. It seems.
Really?
And there's still some of the same stuff we had before where, like, you'd collide with somebody and it wouldn't recognize the collision because on whoever's hosting, the collision
That breaks
didn't
the
happen.
game for
and then,
me.
Yeah.
Because that is a multiplayer party-centric game, and if you're going to include online multiplayer, it needs to work. If
Yeah.
it's not working, why are you releasing it?
I feel like it's still kind of like silly fun in spite of itself, but there were times during yesterday's show where I was like, I mean, what can you do? Like, on your screen, you're running into somebody, but on the canonical copy of the game, you're not. So it's like, there's nothing you can even do to like tailor your play to really make it better. I feel like it's the kind of thing that would be really good locally, like for a local game that would be fun. And they've added some new stuff like the way you unlock game modes and
There's
stuff
a
like
bunch of
that.
new games. There's also a ton of skins too.
Yeah, a ton of skins which are really cute and fun, and the new
Like
game
a kitty
modes are
cat.
pretty cool too. Like the new game modes I've had some fun with, but it's got like the netcode is a serious problem if you're going to be playing it with people online.
There were even more game modes than we had seen yesterday too. I don't know how many, but I think there's at least a handful more, which was refreshing because I kind of thought from when we started it that it was just the same game modes plus like one. Which
Yeah,
would have
yeah.
really, really been stupid if it was
That
like
would have
we
been
waited
terrible.
9 months and there's nothing changed.
I still am muted. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that obviously, as Mathis said, is going to be one of the biggest detriments to this game, unfortunately, is that netcode and the online play really... I am so disappointed to hear that it wasn't fixed, man. Like, I thought for sure that would be one of the facets of early access that they would recognize as one of the bigger problems, but sadly, I guess not. But there's a level editor now, first of all, which is kind of neat. It's the sort of game that I think could benefit pretty well from that. But I will, I think, heavily endorse this as a... Well, they do have local multiplayer, right? I'm pretty sure they do have local multiplayer.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I can pretty heavily endorse this as a good local multiplayer game. This is up there with things like the Jackbox Party Pack or the... what's the other one? The one that's got...
Jackbox Party Pack 2.
No, not that, but Sports
The other
Friends.
one.
Sports Friends and
yeah.
that whole package was really awesome, too, as a local multiplayer game. So this is up there, I think, with those. Move or Die was a ton of fun. I remember playing Move or Die at PAX, and it was it was a party. You guys saw the trailer in there. There were a bunch of people going wild when they were playing that, so they had a really good response there too. It's so much fun, but man, if that online is still broken, then that's a really hard sell. That's unfortunate.
I like those guys, but it is to the point where it's very hard to recommend if you're not exclusively playing it locally.
Right.
Yeah.
There were some games that work better than others for the netcode.
Yeah, some of the stuff is asynchronous, basically. Like
Right.
the cleanup game. It doesn't really matter what your netcode is like for
Yeah.
that, it seems. Or what your latency is like for that, I should say.
But that
for
seems a
anything-
bit silly that you've got to design a playlist around that we're playing online, right?
I guess so, yeah. Anything that had collisions, like the bomb tag game and the hack game, Even
Bomb
speedruns.
tag was just such
sometimes.
bullshit, man.
Bomb tag was
never
bullshit
worked
back
well.
then. Yeah, it was like, I swear,
I think it's
was,
a great
on top
concept.
of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. No, I liked like every game I saw, and I was like, oh yeah, this is fun. I like this as a little mini game, but really, yeah, just again the ability or like the lack of cohesive ability to play the game basically is sort of the glaring problem at the end of the day.
I would say that we're still waiting for our indie Mario Party analog to arrive. This doesn't quite fit it.
It's
But
close.
I mean, we had fun.
Yeah.
I had fun. At least I won't
I had
speak
fun
for you.
too.
Yeah,
Well,
I would
was the
play
host,
it.
though.
I would play it on the show again another couple of times maybe, but you know, you do get to the point where I was watching chat's reaction and they were like, "Well, we're watching your perspective and like it doesn't look right." Like when you collide with somebody, it doesn't pass the bomb.
Yeah.
And I'm not salty about it. You know, netcode is hard, but still.
I'm really surprised. I'm looking through the reviews, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people saying that they're having problems with the online play,
Is
which
there
is
just
really.
something wrong with us?
I'm starting to think that maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
We are all just going through the wrong online system. Maybe
To be fair,
These
Nick
others
and I
do.
do live far away from one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That shouldn't. I mean, we have plenty of examples of games that have been able to
We
overcome
played
that
Duck
issue.
Game, and it's
Yeah.
freaking fast as hell. Duck Game works great.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are problems with duck games sometimes where you're like, oh, I shot you, I didn't shoot you. But for the most part, it's
They're-
definitely
yeah, they're
less
pretty small.
mitigated.
So
I
yeah.
mean, like when I'm looking at the positive reviews, there are a ton. Most of the top ones seem to mention local.
Yeah.
Easy to pick up and get into. My wife hates me now. 10 out of 10. Wish I had more friends. It's a great party game. Party game to me.
Local
Just-
multiplayer is even one of the user-defined tags, so I think maybe people are starting to sort of assume that about this one.
I don't
was
buy this one.
streaming at the same time. I didn't have a lot of upload to spare. Maybe that had something to do with it.
That's true.
Well, hopefully people are having a better experience with it than we are. But if you want to give it a shot, I think it's one that with a very large asterisk, I think I can recommend it for $10,
Yeah.
especially if you got local people to play with.
If you're going to be super competitive about it, you shouldn't.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You'll have a bad
You'll get
time.
furious.
Yeah. All right. And then real quick, want to move over to the Westport Independent, actually. And I think it's going to be mostly Ryan talking about this one.
Yeah, so I played the Westport Independent. It is a Papers, Please-esque management and narrative game where you are the editor of a newspaper in a country or a city where the government is about to enact a pro-censorship bill to stop anti-government sentiment. So you have to choose. You get like an article that is like a list of talking points, and you can cross stuff out to make it pro-government, or you can cross stuff out to make it anti-government, and your articles will influence the way the population feels, which in turn influences the way that the story goes. It's meant to be played over and over and over. It's like 30 minutes long, 35 minutes long per session, and the story changes every time. And it's hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
It is very similar to Papers, Please, but and it nails like the tactile moving stuff around, physically interacting with it kind of satisfaction that Papers, Please had. But Papers, Please, actually the core gameplay loop was like fun. And I don't mean that necessarily as an insult to the Westport Independent, but like Papers, Please had someone would walk to the border and then there would be a gameplay loop of you actually like validating their information.
And it was
that-
constantly changed, too.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there was like a success or a fail check that happened repeatedly. And there was actually like a fail condition, which I actually liked. Playing through Papers, Please, playing through the Westport Independent, I was like you can do whatever you want in the Westport Independent, and it has no gameplay consequences except the story will change a little bit. And the problem there was like I was not invested in the story that much at all.
Yeah.
It seemed like it would be like you'd make things more pro-rebels, and then the story would be like, hey, the rebels are gaining support. You know, you'd be like, okay.
It's like a kind of heavily dressed up Mad Libs then, if there's
Yeah.
no real consequences.
I actually agree. I agree with that assessment.
So the government doesn't try and shut you down or anything if you're like...
They do, but it's kind of like the solution, I guess, is easy. It's like if you turn up, imagine you have like a volume knob and you turn it up, and then your neighbors are like, that's too loud. You'd be like, how do I solve this problem? I turn it down. Like in Papers, Please, you actually had to get better at the game to proceed. Like you had to get better at actually checking all the stuff that they give you.
Right.
Whereas in the Westport Independent, the government's like, hey, we're getting suspicious, and then for like 2 weeks you just publish some pro-government.
So they're just like wagging their finger at you, like, I don't know about what you're doing there.
There's no system in the game that gives you consequence, basically. The consequence is that maybe if you do things this way, you won't get the story that you wanted, but if you don't want that story, why are you writing like that to begin with? It's not like you're spending like a censorship point to write a story.
Yeah.
You're just like crossing stuff out as you want, basically.
All right.
I would suggest, unfortunately, I think this is a really cool game in its ambition, but in execution is not very fun. And then games don't have to be fun, but it's not engaging really either. And by the end of like my 30-minute session, I was over it. And then I did like another 15-minute session just to make a video of it and be like, hey, here's how I feel about it.
Yeah. All right.
It sounded a little bit like you were describing some of the conundrums people get into when they talk about quote-unquote walking simulators, only like a text version of that, where it feels like you're just sort of following a corridor and then that's the end.
If you don't buy it, it's exactly the same way. Like if you were playing like Gone Home and you're like, this teenage girl's fucking stupid. Like that is the experience that you will have with this for sure. You'll be like, and I was like that. I was like, I don't really care about these writers who are basically like borderline stock characters, basically. I mean, that's the thing. Like the story is meant to be replayed over and over, but because it takes place in 30 or 35 minutes, you don't have time to get attached. The characters they don't go through any development except getting frustrated.
And there's no like exploration element like there is in like a walking simulator, you know.
So autonomy is super low, and the autonomy you do have is inconsequential. So I don't know what you're doing really.
It's basically like, this is the rudest way to put it, and I don't mean it to be rude, but is like, it's a game that you can make it, but it's kind of like, it's like it almost feels like an assignment instead of a game. It's like they were like, hey, it would be cool to make this, but nobody at any point bothered to be like, would this be any fun? Or,
is this a fun time?
I wanted to say that about it because it sort of seems like, well, think about the premise of Papers, Please, and how we thought it was so interesting back when that first was released that they were able to make a border control simulator that was fun, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just like the idea of that is, oh, that's really crazy. But then you look at something like the Westport Independent, which is, oh, we're gonna make a censorship simulator, and okay, oh, it's sort of like Papers, Please. You'll have to take what is a very boring idea and turn it into a fun game somehow, and that's what we're expecting out of it. But maybe it seems like they just sort of stuck with, no, this is a censorship simulator, and it's just sort of inherently boring as a result of that, right?
It kind of like it makes its point when someone tells you about the premise. Like anything you can imagine would happen in this game basically happens. And I don't mean like you can do anything you imagine. I mean, if somebody told you they were making a game about like political censorship, you can I don't know, maybe it sounds weird.
It's a very limiting premise, isn't it? It's like, okay, so you like take all of your creativity and just like find various ways to stifle it. More or less.
Yeah. 80% of what you do in the game is not enjoyable.
Yeah.
Is the way that, and I don't even mean like it's not a poorly made game. If this is the game they wanted to make, it's made competently. It's just like there's no satisfaction to be derived from looking at an article and then like clicking on this line, like cross this out. Like it's kind of too paint by numbers in a way. Like it doesn't give you any kind of, I think Nick said it right, it doesn't give you really any autonomy. And there's no like gray area. Like there'll be a sentence that is like, the police shot a child today, and you'll be like, oh, I'm pro-government, let's cross out that they shot a child moment. Like it's like
rescued a kitty.
One or the other kind of thing.
Yeah.
The gameplay loop is basically you recognizing this is counter to what I want the path I want to take, and then clicking on it. And
so it sounds like there's also like not even really any ambiguity to it whatsoever. As far
that was
as
my
That's what I think I liked about Papers, Please. If you think about it, like Papers, Please is it had so many different things you could do, and everything was a shade of gray. Like working with the government allowed you to afford bills and feed your family, but it meant that the country was going to be, I guess, shittier, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Where then you could work with like the secret rebel organization, but if you got caught, your family was effed. Like that was cool, but I think that's a lot of what made Papers, Please fun. If that's not part of the Westport Independent, like you're saying, if it's really just A or B, choose, then that's kind of, I can see that'd be really boring really quick.
So here's maybe an interesting perspective. I think there were a good amount of people who didn't really even enjoy Papers, Please, but probably were able to just like appreciate it for what it was.
That's me.
Do you think there's any value to be had for the Westport Independent in a similar sense?
I don't think it makes its points as well as Papers, Please does. Like the story in Papers, Please, it's like mild spoilers for Papers, Please. Yeah. There's moments in it that kind of break you out of what you're doing in a cool way. Like on day 3 or whatever, when the dude, like, you let him pass because he passes the checks and then he does like the suicide bombing. Like that throws you for a loop, and it has real consequences on the gameplay. Like the border shuts down for like half the day, so you can't feed your family properly or like pay your heating bill.
Yeah.
Like those systems and the narrative like feed off of one another in a cool way. The better you are at the game, the more comfortable your player is, and vice versa. Whereas in like the Westport Independent, the general feel that I got from the game is just that it doesn't matter. Like, your newspaper will only get shut down if you go super pro-rebel, and you can always, like, pull it back. There's nothing pushing you pro-rebel, and then you're like, I can't go that far, because I'll get shut down. Like, you just go, okay, let's do some pro-government stuff. And, like, there's a little tycoon element of it, like, where do you want to spend your marketing budget? But you don't really get more money the more papers you sell. Like, you never have to worry about the financial part of your papers.
Really?
So you're just like, you're like, hey, my paper's really popular in this district. What it allows you to do is influence the opinion in that district more. But there's, again, the fact that there's like no real consequence beyond the narrative. I saw someone in chat say it's kind of like the YOG, and I agree with that, but I think the YOG is a better game. But it's similar in the sense that you can basically just play it however you want. Like, there's the failure condition is just getting the story you don't want to get.
Well, the YOG is trying to be a storytelling game. So I don't know if maybe there's that many comparisons to be made.
You tell me saying there's a tycoon element of the game is weird because, like you said, it's also only a 35 minute experience.
Yeah.
Why would you inject a tycoon element to a 30-minute experience when tycoon elements typically are made for, games where you're investing a ton of time?
It implies scope. And the scope isn't there.
Exactly. Somewhat cynically, I think that maybe they had this concept from the Game Jam, and they're like, how would we flesh it out into like something we can actually sell? And they're like, well, let's add this like extra gameplay layer in, but it doesn't seem to have much consequence.
I was just going to speculate that this sounds like what happens when you develop a game around a concept in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And you want to get that concept to be the showstopper by itself, but then you kind of forget that that concept can't carry the whole gaminess of it.
Yeah.
And then you got to kind of stick stuff to the top and around it to make it work as a game, but it doesn't always fall together properly. That's the impression I'm getting.
This is something I could imagine playing after a game jam and being like, whoa, this is a really cool concept. Like, it would be nice to see them build this into a quote-unquote full game, but it doesn't really... We were so
it's
wrong.
It's very ambitious. Like, the idea itself is incredibly ambitious to the point where it might actually self-sabotage.
Yeah,
because
it's kind of like so weighty that like if you don't do it right, it just comes across as kind of inconsequential. Like it deals with some high-minded themes, of like the working class rising up against their fascist overlords and stuff like that. But by like week 6, I was like, just get the articles out as fast as possible so I can see how the story ends. Because it's not the actual gameplay. Just at no fun? Point there. If you were like, hey, you want to play like 10 minutes of Papers, Please? I'd be like, yeah, I like that game. If you were like, play 10 minutes of the Westport Independent, I would be like, why? I don't understand what I gain from it. Because it's not enjoyable, and it's not deliberately unenjoyable in a way that like proves a point.
Yeah.
Or tries to prove a point. I think it's just like, they had an idea. I can't speak for them. My theory is that maybe they had an idea, and it's a really cool idea for a game, but it just doesn't. There's no hook like that keeps you coming back to it. It's like if Papers, Please made the same points that it made, but whenever somebody came to the door of the like border agency, you just clicked a check mark or an X based on whether or not you wanted them in, and then like that tailored the story.
Yeah.
Like you lose out on all of the actual. You lose out on the distraction that allows them to deliver the story to you in a way that you're not like you don't have a barrier against it, I guess.
And how ironic it is about storytelling.
Yeah, right.
It looks exactly graphically. It looks very similar to Papers, Please.
I will say I think it looks great, and I really I mean it's very Papers, Pleasey, but I really like the
Papers, Pleasey, the new graphic type.
Well, I initially thought this was actually made by Lucas Pope. I was surprised to learn that it was a totally different studio that had nothing to do with him.
He's in the special thanks.
Yeah.
I don't know if he consulted or whatever, but I would say it's probably implied that that's an inspiration for sure. But I still like games where you move stuff around like that. There's another game that came out last year called You Must Push the Button or something like that, or Don't Push the Button. That was very similar. It had a machine in front of you and you manipulated the knobs yourself, and it kind of told a story like that. But this was I like that and didn't really like anything else.
I don't know how true this is, but I'm just reading chat, and somebody said Lucas Pope had the idea at Ludum Dare for the Republia Times, and they took that idea and made the game.
Oh, okay.
All right, there you go.
So,
I mean, I don't want to. This is maybe just the shittiest thing in the world to say, but I wonder if Lucas Pope was maybe more directly involved with something like this, how he would change it up to maybe be a little bit better.
It could become a fun game. I don't know mechanically how you do it.
Yeah.
But conceptually, censoring the newspapers has to be enjoyable. As as strange as that sounds, being a tool of the, patricians has to be enjoyable, or there's no reason to actually get to what's supposed to be the selling point of the game, which is the emergent story that happens.
Yeah.
What made Papers, Please fun is the game felt like it gave you power over
you need more weight,
out.
more individual autonomy, and things to give you response on a one-to-one level.
So the idea of maybe making you the owner of the Westport Independent and introducing these tycoon elements and giving you power, the more you censor a certain thing, the more money you make kind of thing, and then expanding your business and making it bigger and hearing about the rebels and stuff, that could be a cool idea if it was fleshed out and made it a bigger scope as opposed to what it is right now. I could see that idea being really cool, but they need to, Nick was saying, they need to give you that feeling of control and power that apparently is just not there.
Yeah.
You know how go ahead.
Games that always fall into this trope of you're either all good or you're all evil, I feel like they always end up in this gray area that's just the storytelling gets wishy-washy. It just never ends up going in a good direction. And it sounds like that's what they're doing in this one too. So it might benefit from tailoring it toward one specific direction instead of both.
They should benefit toward tailoring it toward one direction. Actually, that's probably the best.
Yeah.
You get One Direction involved in there.
Hashtags involved.
That's right.
It kind of has the inverse problem of most Game Jam games, where a lot of Game Jam games are based around a mechanic that's kind of fun. Like Gods Will Be Watching was based around this cool kind of point and click management game or resource management game. And then a lot of people felt that they struggled to spin that out into a full game by adding a story to it that didn't really click, and the RNG elements became more pronounced and people became frustrated with that. This is the opposite problem, where they had a cool concept, but mechanically there wasn't much there that was enjoyable, and then it never really kind of spun out into something that became enjoyable. They started with the concept and we're going to fill it in mechanically, and it just didn't really work, as opposed to having the mechanics and trying to make it a larger scope project, and that maybe does or does not work. But
yeah,
I don't want to shit on the game. I think it's a really ambitious game. I think it's a cool idea, but it just is not enjoyable, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to recommend it, you have to buy the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really find myself buying into the idea. I was it's not that satisfying.
It makes me want Oberdeen really bad, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that game is
Same.
at least from the demo, it has a really cool
The demo
micro loop of what's going on,
right.
and then the concept over top is interesting.
Oberdeen.
Visually freaking stunning too. I
loved the way it looked.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Sorry.
Not 100% fair to be this very accomplished indie developer is making this project. This game doesn't compare, but it's the Westport Independent is so similar.
They're welcoming. I think that comparison. I think they sort of wanted it.
It looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: they look the closest to one another that they do. No other game comes close to looking like them.
Yeah. Westport Independent. It's $10 on Steam. Just came out January 21st. Mixed reviews so far, as seems to be the case here as well. And I believe that's going to bring us into everybody's favorite segment. It's time for Ask Roundtable. That's our new theme. Ask Roundtable. You can send your questions into roundtableyt@gmail.com if you'd like to have them potentially answered on this regular segment we do here on the Roundtable Live podcast. And today's question comes from Ryan Johnson. He says, "Hi guys, I really enjoy your show. Please keep it up. Here's my question. I usually find the end of a game less enjoyable than what immediately precedes it, and I have several friends who play a game until the final level, mission, etc., and never finish. Do you guys have trouble finishing games? What does that mean for the games industry? I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. Thanks again, guys." It's Ryan. Thank you very much, Ryan, for the question. Basically, it boils down to, do you guys have trouble finishing games, and how do you feel that may be reflecting on the industry as a whole right now? Let's start with Nick. How do you feel about that?
All right, well, first we have to acknowledge that we are very atypical in the way that we play through games.
Yeah.
A lot of the games we get involved in, we're only there for a little while until something else takes over. Personally speaking, I've been trying to make a much bigger concerted effort toward finishing every game that I start with my stream, at least the ones that I go in knowing I plan on finishing it and not just abandoning it. I used to just sort of pick up something, play it for 4 or 5 hours, and then just sort of leave it alone because I'd get distracted. Now it's become sort of a problem for me, and I want to actually see the ends of a few games. So speaking recently, I played Mushroom 11, which I think is a fantastic game, but is extremely excruciatingly difficult towards the very end. And I pushed through it even though I was like cursing mad the whole time because I just wanted to say I accomplished this goal. And, you know, there's no real reason objectively why we need to finish them, but I feel personally driven to sometimes, and sometimes I don't. So I can't really say that there's a rule one way or the other. If it's a game that I feel really like I want to get involved in and learn everything about, like for the example, Isaac, it's a game I've been going for like a year trying to accomplish everything in, and I'm still at it all the time. That game, for some reason, drives me to do that, so I do it. But I can't say that it happens every time.
Right. Matt, this is what you think.
If I have pretty much no problem finishing a game as long as I'm doing a series on it, I find. I don't know, just being able to archive the fact that I've gone from beginning to end and have the whole thing up for viewing. I have really no problem finishing a game. I have in the past, like prior to this being my job, like gotten to the end of a game and stopped playing for stupid facts of like I just don't want the experience to end because I enjoyed it so much.
Geez,
and instead, like I ended it myself by just not playing it, so I defeated my own purpose. But I have done that with a few RPGs where like I loved this game so much I don't want it to be over. I've done that with some TV shows.
You just never played it.
Well, that's obviously like, it's stupid, but like I used to do that a lot. Nowadays, I kind of just have one game off camera that I will play, and it'll take me forever, but it'll be the one game that I'm going to finish. And that's been the past month and a half, 2 months with The Witcher 3. Like it's the game I've been playing couple hours every couple of nights, and that's been the game that I'm going to finish. But I will eventually finish. It's going to take me a while.
I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot more afraid of the big open world games that require so much of an investment to finish, man. Like, it's not even just that obviously I'm in a position where I need to be playing a lot more games than just the 1 or 2 that take so much time out of your day, but I can't like even start it, you know? When it's a game that I know I'm going to have to start up and go through all the splash screens and shit. It's like after 2.5 minutes, you're finally actually playing the game.
It's such a real problem.
It is. I know. It sounds ridiculous.
NVIDIA, the way it's meant to be played.
After 4 of those, you really don't care anymore.
If I have
You're
to go
telling
into
me you don't like watching Rainbow Six stitched together.
Exactly.
If I have to go into the fucking like init.txt files in 12 different folders categorized through Steam just to delete fucking MOVs so I don't have to watch introductory cutscene bullshit anymore. That's like sort of a hindrance to my gaming experience. So that's honestly like one of the big things that deters me from those big ones.
The Rainbow Six one pisses me off the most because with the stitching is just to put Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege on the screen. And I'm like, that's not even... Like, I already have the game. Yeah. I looked at the title when I opened it, and it feels like one of those things you should be able to escape, but you can't. And then, like, it just loads up, and then it says Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, and you're like, yes, I saw the stitching.
Right.
But I think
And
what
then
they're doing there, they're loading stuff in the background
Yeah.
when that's going or something.
You get to the main menu though, and then they're like, they want to sell you something on top of it. So it's like, come on, just let me get to the goddamn game.
Oh my god. Speaking of next-gen consoles, man, fuck the Wii U for advertising on my gamepad randomly
really
throughout
don't
the
like
course
that.
Oh,
of
the
the day.
thing when the pad boots up,
It's
and
so
I'm like, what?
fucking ridiculous, man. Like, I did not welcome a portable Nintendo advertising machine into my home with this purchase. This is
Let's be
insane.
honest, Nintendo. I'm already buying everything first party you come out, so I can actually justify the purchase of the console. So
Yeah.
When does it do that? I haven't seen it.
It's done it like
Randomly, middle of the night, I've seen the thing like light up a blue and like a dim
Wait,
like glow.
It'll turn on your controller when you're not using
the
the
little
system to
gamepad.
advertise.
Yeah, I have it just sitting on a table in my living room during the day, and it'll just pop up like, "Hey, have you tried Super Mario Maker yet? It's a treat."
I'm so angry.
It's
I had
stupid.
no idea that was happening.
No, this is a real thing. Nintendo has been doing this for a long time with the Wii
apparently you
U.
can turn it off, but
Oh, okay, well that's nice, but having it on by default is still kind of shitty. Anyway, not to take a dump down Nintendo's throat real quick, but I definitely do have a problem finishing games now though these days. Like I think the last big game I finished was probably Watch Dogs, and that was back in 20.
fuck, dude, that's like almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, so it's been a while since I've really been able to. I think I'm considering only like huge AAA release. Oh, Far Cry 4, I guess I did finish too, so that was a little bit more recent. But yeah, it's few and far between are the big games that I've managed to actually commit the time necessary to finish.
Well, I feel like it's not even like necessarily me being cynical and saying that games are developed to be fun at the front and then exciting at the back as the conclusions start to resolve themselves, and then they're kind of like buoyed or like sinking in the middle. I feel like it's just like human nature. It's like you ever eat like an awesome meal, the first couple bites you're like, this is great, and then like in the middle your brain shuts down and you're just like, oh, and then you're like, oh, there's only 2 bites left, and then you're like, okay, it's good. Like I feel like it's kind of human nature to be excited by novelty, and then you kind of fall into a pattern of like, oh, it's just same old, and then at the end you're like, okay, closure, this is exciting again.
I think maybe the antithesis to that argument is jelly beans. Because I can just eat jelly beans.
Every jelly
incessantly.
bean
is so
tastes the
delicious.
I was really
Video
proud of
games are
myself
jelly
for
beans.
beating
Yeah.
Super Mario Maker, man. Like that was a really compelling narrative.
I didn't
When
realize
had-
there was like a way to beat Super Mario
Oh
Maker.
yeah, no, you've got to copy and paste the bricks about 200 at a time, and then eventually you unlock all the
Oh.
custom palettes and stuff, and then you
Okay,
can turn
good,
off the
yeah.
game and never play it again.
Good.
Sorry, I had to get Nintendo for something because of what you just said. That's it.
Yeah, they deserve it.
Part of
Like,
like
don't. I don't know.
I think it's fairly standard that like most people probably like have more fun with the start and the end of most games than the middle.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why like I have an aversion, like you were saying, to big games now. Like a 60-hour game now doesn't appeal to me as much as it did ages ago. But when I think back to like great experiences, I'm like, oh, like Mark of the Ninja, I was excited all the way through, and that was like 8 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
I think back to like what's a good
Bastion?
example? Bastion, yeah, Bastion. You know what's that, like 6 or 7 hours
Probably,
long?
yeah.
I was motivated to play that and beat that for sure, because I feel like when the end is kind of always in sight, it makes the moments within it more meaningful, and it kind of it gives me the idea that there's like more respect for the player, I guess, or the player's time. When it's not like I beat Fallout 4, and I'm not shitting on Fallout 4, but like the last like 10 missions, I was like, I'm over it. Like I don't want to do this anymore. Like I get that from a story perspective, there's like this makes sense, but from a design perspective, I'm like, well, what if you just didn't throw in the arbitrary need for me to like bring this person here? Like the world doesn't exist. You put that concern there to put like another 35 minutes of gameplay in. So I feel like there is a lot of filler in games to kind of get to the point where people feel that it's justified to pay $60 for them, or even $15 for them. But
Yeah, brought that argument back. I was going to say you should dock $5 off the price of a game for each splash screen you include that I can't skip, because that's bullshit.
Yeah. That's really interesting how they add filler to get to a $60 price point and then complain that their budgets are too high. It's like it's going in both directions, fighting itself.
But overall, I don't know if I could say that the inability of us to complete games is really impacting the industry that much in any meaningful way. I don't know if it's like the sort of argument I'd want to make. I don't ever consider it, that's for sure. Like I don't think to myself, man, I wish the industry would pump out more games I can actually finish, because I'm pretty sure that's just a problem with me more so than it is with the actual people making them.
Like Nick said, we're coming from a very unique position where finishing a game means either we're putting work hours into it to do it, or it's eating up what free time we have when we're not working. And a lot of the time, like for me in particular, if I'm not playing games like on the computer for my channel, whatever, I'm typically just not playing video games very often. So
I was like this as a kid though. Like I feel like if you look at my like original Xbox library or my like PlayStation 1 library, probably I only beat like 15 or 25% of those games.
Really?
Like if I think back, I'm like, yeah, you know, like I beat Halo. I beat Crash Bandicoot, you know, I beat those. But for a lot of games that, you know, were maybe just solid, like I play like 7 or 8 hours of them and then just maybe never touch them again.
I had a different experience. I had games that I used to just pour hours into.
Me too.
Especially back in the PS2, like the PS2 JRPG golden age, you know, like I'm talking about like Star Ocean and all that kind of stuff.
Man, Star Ocean
Second
was
Story in particular, man, I put like 130 hours into that game. I cleared everything. And that was back, I guess, like when I was younger, I did that because, well, I mean, I didn't really have a very grand selection. I think we're kind of just spoiled for choice at this stage too, which is a side factor to that. But I would like go out and rent one game, right? And I'd be like, okay, this is what I'm doing for the next 5 days. Is I'm playing this, and this is it.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's the gist of it, I think.
Legend of Dragoon, so good.
Oh, there you go, man. Just keep rattling off PS2 JRPGs.
I know.
Suikoden
Jade
3.
Cocoon. Did you ever play Jade Cocoon?
No, I never played.
That was like that teen-focused Pokemon game for the PlayStation 1 that had like JRPG elements. It was really good.
Teen-focused.
Yeah, there was
Go into
definitely
the school bathroom, pretend to be your dad simulator.
Yeah, that needs to be the next.
And then
simulator
shower with
game.
him.
Go to the school bathroom, pretend to be your dad.
Thank you, Ryan, for the question, though. Again, if you guys have questions you'd like to ask us, send those over to roundtableyt@gmail.com, and we'll get them in for a future Ask Roundtable segment. And now it's time for everybody's favorite segment after their favorite segment. It's Nick's Weird Games, brought to you by Ryan's theme song. Every single week here on...
now.
Every single week here on Roundtable Live, we do Nick's Weird Games. Nick goes to pick a weird game from his catalog of very weird games. He brings it back. Ryan sings a theme song while he's doing that. And then if you're here with us in chat, watching live on twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast, feel free to play along with us. Nick will keep chat up and keep an eye out on the chat to see who answers correctly first. He's going to give us hints such as the description of the game, what the art style looks like, the publisher, developer, that kind of thing. And we'll do it. But for now, it's time for the theme song. And... I'm going to let you have a go at it, any of you other three people. What are you feeling like today?
I picked last time.
You did pick last time.
I love the sub-narrative that's like one day Ryan's just not going to put up with this anymore. He's just not going to do it anymore.
We're just waiting for that.
Every week, I'm like, this might be the last.
Is this the one?
Is it? I don't know. That spells the end of an era when that happens. If I can keep coming up with decent suggestions, I think maybe that's what's keeping this afloat. So the onus might be on me here. Let me get a little... Man, who...
Everybody in chat's like, wake me up inside.
We can't do that. Man, what's like the current stuff? We've already had you do a Drake
X gonna
one.
give it to you?
Oh, yeah, that's really modern.
Really
Maybe.
current.
Now let me hear some Exhibit. You got something in there, I bet. Deep down inside.
X gonna give it to you. Also, that's DMX.
I will give you like
DMX. X is gonna give it to you. There you go.
I know it's DMX. Come on now, man. Give me a little credit here. I'm talking about like the spectrum of '90s hip hop that I know you have just like an endless archive of. So I'll give you free reign.
Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg.
Oh, there you go. There's something good there.
Shit, dude. You see, the problem is that when you have a song, it's really easy to do the lyrics because there's like 8 words per rhyme, whereas in a rap, the density of words
it's super dense.
It's so prodigious that it's very difficult to make it up on the fly.
That's fair. That's fair. Do you know the Gorillaz Clint Eastwood?
That's the one that's like,
I'm happy. I'm feeling. Yeah, you know that.
I'm not happy.
I mean, I do know that one.
I hope so.
Yeah. But then like it's just like
How about I
that.
just get a game?
You can just go
and
get a
then-
game. That's fair too.
And then we'll just play the game.
We just play
It's
Nick's
a
weird games.
Nick's weird game.
Mhm.
It's a Nick's weird game. It's the Roundtable Podcast. It's the Nick's weird game.
I was like, is he doing the birthday song?
We're gonna
doing
get
the birthday
sued,
song.
man. Oh wait, no,
It's
that's
called-
not a
it's public
It's not
domain
on the public
now.
domain. We're safe. We can finally
Got
do
a
it.
game.
All right, what do you got?
Oh, you want me to just tell you?
Yeah.
I'll just tell you.
We
Then
made
don't
that
have to
joke
play the
every
game
week.
at
Go
all.
on now.
Yeah, hold the chat. Hold on, I gotta get rid of chat.
All right,
Yeah.
get rid of chat. So you guys were just talking about JRPGs a moment ago. So
Oh,
we're gonna do one of
it's,
those.
Star Ocean, isn't it?
It's
Final
not Star
Fantasy. I knew
Ocean.
it. I
I'm
knew
gonna say a very high chance you're gonna get this one pretty quickly.
Speak it in three.
Okay.
Like Wild Arms.
We could probably
Fantasy
just keep
Star.
saying
You
just wanna
JRPG.
guess it with no hints?
Honestly, might be
Online.
able to.
Just hit me. Just go.
No. I want to hear you. I want to
Yeah,
hear you
yeah, let's
describe
do it.
All right. So I'm not gonna give you the publisher yet because I think it might give it away too quickly.
Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
No.
Every time
that
you
even
hesitate like that,
It's
man,
a
I think
PS2
maybe.
game. I don't even think
Oh,
that was
okay.
on PS.
That was
game.
GameCube.
The Bouncer.
What? This is like one of the launch
Give me the
titles,
description.
like-
Come on.
Set in post-apocalyptic Tokyo. There's a stop right
Yeah,
there.
there's a
Anybody?
Stop for sure. I don't know.
The entire population of the world is annihilated by a global catastrophe called the
Digimon.
Conception.
It's
What is that?
Mathis is gonna get this. I see it in his
Tokyo
eyes.
Jungle.
Say that again. Can you just repeat that one more time? I didn't
Yeah.
notice it.
Set in a post-apocalyptic Tokyo, the entire population of the world is annihilated by a global catastrophe called the Conception.
Conception. Okay.
Now the fate of the entire world lies on the shoulders of one young man.
I thought the
What's his
entire
name?
population of the world was annihilated. Where did this young man come from? Mars?
I don't
Ooh,
know.
that's a valid point. Yeah, this story has some holes.
Is this Martian Gothic?
I'm
Nope.
confused.
You
it
want to
Messiah?
get that one eventually. I'm never going to put Martian Gothic in.
Is it Galarians?
No. One young man who must battle his way through opposing demonic forces in order to bring order to the world to come, or possibly become the harbinger of its destruction. Chad has had
Oh,
it
is
for a
there-
while.
Oh no.
This sounds familiar. I'm trying to think.
Oh no. I feel
I
bad.
I,
now.
I want to guess, but I'm not sure I'm right.
Go for
Oh,
it.
this is a really great quote on the back.
Jersey
Go ahead and
Devil.
guess, though.
Just throw some out, man. Why not?
Jersey
What
Devil.
do you-
No.
I'm confused.
Call it the RPG for the GTA generation. No console RPG to date
What?
offers this many choices. This is a quote off the back of the box from G4 Tech TV. Offers this many choices, this much customization, or so much dark and gritty style.
See, it being from G4 Tech TV implies a lot because that merger only happened like post 04. So we're looking
Is this
ended
like-
the PlayStation's lifespan.
All right, before I guess, is this like a Shin Megami Tensei game?
What do you mean before I guess? You either guess...
Are you guessing Shin Megami Tensei?
Well, he's got so many games on the PS2.
Mr. Shin Megami Tensei? So the game has 50 hours of gameplay with alternate endings. I'm shooting you down, Mathis. You can't just ask a question.
Is it Nocturne? Is it Shin Megami Tensei?
Yes, it is Nocturne.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't
all
sure.
right. Hey.
Is it in
I
this
played
genre?
that game.
Nice.
Yeah, there it is. Shin Megami
Well, because
Tensei.
Shin Megami Tensei had like the digital Devil Saga or
Yes,
whatever
I
it was.
just want you to know,
About
like,
Nocturne.
you know that Shin Megami Tensei is not a man, right?
I actually don't know. Actually, I have no idea.
That's the name of the franchise, not
Name of the-
like
Is it? Oh, I didn't know that.
it's not like
Demons.
Wes Craven. Wes
Oh,
Craven.
I swear to God, I did not know that. I played so many games.
I mean,
but, like,
that's.
I didn't know
I
that.
think that's a fair bit of ignorance there. Honestly, that's sort of confusing.
It's fine.
I'm gonna give him a pardon on that one.
Look, he got it. I knew he was going to get it. It was a matter of how long it was going to take. I didn't want to say it was by Atlas because I thought that would really steer things.
I love Digital Devils. Like that was super good. Digital.
This was
Devil
my
Saga.
jam right here. Of the
Yeah.
S&T games, this was my favorite. It has like this Pokemon system, really crazy, macabre, dark art style. It's got a freaking Devil May Cry reference. You play it, you can see Dante in it. You can like capture him or something. I never got to that part though. But it was a really solid game and quite rare as well, I've heard. This is probably one of the hardest to get out of the series.
I think
Um,
this
Ooh,
is-
nice.
There was
Yeah,
another
this-
one. Wasn't there another one on the PS2 as well, other than the
There's
two that I said?
Digital Devil Saga, and then there's Devil Summoner.
Devil
and-
Summoner is the one I was. There was
Devil
another one.
Saga had a 1 and a 2.
Oh my God, Mike Tyson's Shin Megami Tensei. That's so
Mike
good.
Tyson's
That's
Shin-
so good.
Tony Hawk's Nocturne.
Yeah,
For
Devil
Persona.
Summoner I think I had as well. I don't remember playing much of Devil Summoner, but the box art looks familiar.
Persona is actually part of the SMP saga as well.
Oh, is
I-
it? Oh, okay.
did not know that, I don't think.
Although I
Man,
think
that
it's
guy's
sort of
got
like
his fingers in all sorts of pies.
Hey, look, man, I thought it was a guy, all right? I'm sorry.
It's perfectly reasonable. Come on. That sounds exactly like a guy's
Well, it's like
name.
Kojima, man. Kojima has
Yeah.
different types of games, and you think Kojima's not just...
People, that's
not-
like the fucking people that are like, hey, man, if you don't know the fucking circumference of Mario's hat, then fuck you.
Dude,
You're not a
I'm
real
just
gamer.
saying it's not a name. It's like it's not a person's name anyway.
You could be a Japanese guy.
it's
It is. It could not be though,
It's
because
fine.
it's not.
So blue shirt is the first one that I see in my personal chart. So or in my chat rather.
Awesome.
There may have been more
Chat
that got cut off because
You said
chat
Chat
went
had
really
that for
fast.
a while?
Huh?
What?
You said Chat had it for a while?
Oh, they had it like within the first couple lines. Yeah.
Man, well done, Chad. Okay, good job, Blue Shirt. I'm thinking maybe we do like one day we actually assign a reward to something like that. But for now, let's just make it fun and say congrats, Blue Shirt. Good job. And that's it. Thank you very much for joining us for the show today, guys. Appreciate it. We want to say a big thank you to those of you who have been continually supporting us over on patreon.com/roundtable is the primary means of financial support for the show here. And also the subscribers here to the Twitch channel as well. Appreciate you guys doing that. But of course, that's just for fun. Those Patreon supporters, $20 and up, that we want to thank out loud here at the end of the show today include Christopher Flagg, Matt Air Force Balls, Alexander Spillman, General Krunk, Jonathan Graham, Julian Appelsgard, Kevin Birkland, David Bradley, Gish Vandervet, Logan Ray, Smurfette, Super Mona Man, Mediocrities, Myth Scarab, Zur, Simph, Kevin Elsa, Kangaroo Walker, Ignacio 0891, Bristlebrip, Casey, Positron, and Justin. Thank you guys so much for contributing over there on Patreon. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining us here live on twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast as well. If you missed any part of the show today, you can catch the VOD over on youtube.com/beartappy/mathingsgames or /RockleeSmile. You can catch it over on iTunes, SoundCloud, and coming soon to Google Play Music as well. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you next week here, Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific. That is going to be the schedule moving forward indefinitely. So plan on it. Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific here, twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast, and we will see you next time.
Hi-oh.
Bye.
Hey, everybody.
Bye. See ya.